The chance to win. Text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th of August. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, the government is...
More money in the pockets of working people. Higher living standards promised by this Labour government, delivered by this Labour government.
Yes, as I was saying, the government is eyeing that radical shake-up of home taxes. The Chancellor is considering ripping up the stamp duty tax and replacing it with a new property tax that could leave homeowners paying more. Well, we'll have the details.
Well, the government has another £20 billion plus black hole to fill, this one of their own making. What could this new potential tax mean for you?
While difficult, peace is within reach, and I believe that in a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine.
Well, President Zelensky hails his best talks yet with President Donald Trump at the White House. The US president promises security guarantees for Ukraine, and he says a deal with Russia could be struck even while war rages on. Is there an end in sight?
And it's flag fury in the Cotswolds. Yes, the Labour mega-donor Dale Vince sparks uproar in Stroud with a giant Palestinian flag. Locals say the row is dividing the town.
And exposure to porn among children is actually getting worse, not better, despite the Online Safety Act. Yes, shocking new research finds some as young as 6 have already seen it.
And GB News hits Benidorm, asking holidaymakers what they really think of the headlines back home.
35 degrees in the shade. The Brits are here in Benidorm. Do they know the news that's going on at home? And most of all, do they care? We'll have more later in the programme.
So Doogie there, reminding people on their holiday in Benidorm of the news back home.
I think it's probably... I'm a bit of a news junkie when I go away, though. I just can't stop reading what's going on, keeping up to date. I don't think I can just sort of lie there and forget about everything. It's not... I wouldn't feel relaxed. I'd feel on edge.
Well, what about you, Catherine? Do you sit around the table on holiday talking politics?
Sometimes do, but I think we're sort of strange creatures here who work in news. We are not normal people who have got, frankly, better things to do with their time. I have just come back from Sweden. I try to switch off a bit, but it's very difficult not to just keep checking, especially with all that's going on. It is not a quiet August, is it?
Absolutely. I mean, I've never been to Benidorm, but I have been on my fair share of all-inclusives. Oh, yeah? With Patrick. We went to Tenerife. That was pretty good. A few GBNews viewers were there as well, which was rather nice. Where else? Mallorca. That was good too.
No, very nice. I'm actually flying off this Friday for a quick little break with my family, which should be nice and fun and sunny. But it's not quite... all-inclusive package.
No, staying in a house. But Benidorm is one of those places that gets a bit of a hard time sometimes. It's the sort of place, Catherine, where people say, oh, you're just going on holiday to have your fry-up down the calf. But you know what? People enjoy it. People enjoy it. It's sunny. There's lots of things to do. It's good nightlife, apparently.
Although I do know
sometimes that nightlife gets a bit wild, I've seen.
I do know some people in some parts of Spain who end up getting squirted with water pistols from the locals because some of the locals aren't too happy about the influx of Brits who turn up and start drinking at before midday and
Catherine,
sort of...
Catherine, have you ever been a bad Brit abroad? Down in Benidorm or wherever else?
I've never been to Benidorm. I've been to the north. I've been to Madrid. Not in the north, been to San Sebastian in the north. I was at a wedding in Spain a fortnight ago in Vigo, which is top left corner, to give it its technical term, of Spain, just above Portugal. It was amazing. We had a dinner that started about midnight and went on for hours and hours.
A dinner that started at midnight?
Everything goes on a lot later. A lot later.
But because they're in the wrong time zone.
It's so hot, they can't function in the middle of the day, so they have a lie down.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what people have to say in Benidorm on this show. We're going to be there all day. Well, Doogie's going to be there all day.
Yeah, sadly,
we'll just be watching. Sadly not in the 35-degree heat, anyway.
No. Well, lots more to come on the show, besides Benidorm. Do get in contact, gbnews.com/.
You might be in Benidorm as we speak, let us know.
Entirely possible. But we'll get to all of that and so much more after your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer is co-chairing Ukraine security guarantee meetings with European leaders. The Prime Minister and French President Emmanuel Macron have been leading those talks between nations looking to assist Ukraine, as Donald Trump says he's called Vladimir Putin to arrange a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents following a phone call between he and his Russian counterpart, which Zelensky has called a significant step towards ending the war. Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have reportedly agreed to a one-on-one sit-down meeting within the next 2 weeks. Marks the first face-to-face meeting between the two since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, with the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of formats, but on the level of leaders.
During the meeting, President Trump pledged to provide military support to Ukraine if a ceasefire is agreed.
When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer praised the US President for the peace talks at the Oval Office, saying there's been real progress made.
Today's meeting was good and constructive. And there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. These were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today.
Liberal Democrat leader Theresa Davy told GB News that the UK needs to increase its support to Ukraine.
still fear that Trump is driven by a desire to get a deal with President Putin and is putting that above the long-term interests of Ukraine and of European security. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a deal that Ukraine would willingly sign up to. I think the best response that Britain could make would be to strengthen the hand of Zelensky at negotiations by offering to increase our support for Ukraine, for example, with British Typhoon jet fighters. I think we have to make sure that Ukraine goes into those negotiations in the strongest possible way.
In other news, a woman dubbed the ketamine queen has agreed to plead guilty of selling the drugs that ultimately killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. 42-year-old Josephine Sanger will plead guilty to 5 charges in Los Angeles, including 1 count of distributing ketamine, resulting in death or bodily injury, according to the Justice Department. Mr. Perry was found dead in a backyard jacuzzi at his Los Angeles home in October of 2023, with an examination finding his death was caused by the acute effects of ketamine. Sanger is one of 5 people, including medical doctors and the actor's assistant, who US officials say supplied ketamine to Perry, exploiting his drug addiction for profit and leading to his overdose death. Rachel Reeves is considering a new property tax that would apply to homes valued above £500,000, potentially replacing stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. The Chancellor is searching for various revenue-raising options while maintaining Labour's pledge to maintain the triple log. Supermarket inflation fell slightly this month, but remains well past the point at which price rises really start to bite, according to the latest figures. Grocery prices were 5% higher than a year ago in the 4 weeks to the 10th of August, according to market research firm World Panel by Numerator, which was recently renamed from Kantar. However, this was down from July's 5.2%, which represented a rise from inflation of 4.7% a month earlier and marked the highest level since January last year. And drivers are being warned over long delays on major routes as 17.6 million getaway trips by car are expected to take place in the UK over the August bank holiday period. The RAC, which issued the alert, urged drivers to set off as early as possible or be prepared to spend longer in traffic. The South East and South West are expected to have some of the worst congestion. Some 3 million journeys for holidays or day trips are expected to be made on Friday. This rises to 3.4 million on Saturday, 2.4 million on Sunday and 2.7 million on Monday. And those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews financial report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3520 and €1.1579. The price of gold, £2,470 and 10 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,179 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews financial report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 minutes past midday, and the Chancellor is eyeing up a radical shake-up of Britain's property taxes.
Yes, reports are that the Chancellor could scrap stamp duty altogether and even council tax, replacing them both with a new national levy on homes worth more than £500,000.
Well, ministers argue it could simplify the system, but critics warn it may leave millions of homeowners paying more.
OK, well, joining us now is GBNews political correspondent Catherine Forster. I don't think the suggestion is that anyone who owns a home under £500,000 wouldn't pay any tax.
Well, we don't know the details, of course. This is reported by The Guardian. But, of course, Rachel Reeves has got a 20 billion to 50 billion, depending on which figures you believe, black hole to fill. We know that taxes are going to have to go up and they are looking at ways to raise money. But I think this is quite interesting because there's 2 things that the government are potentially looking to replace, one of which is stamp duty. That could be done in this Parliament. The other one is council tax. Now, that's not been tackled for decades. The property bans are massively out of date. That would require them to be re-elected in 4 years, something that I don't think is a done deal at all. But what they're looking at is, rather than stamp duty, which you pay when you buy a house, it would be if you have a home that you own and are living in, when you sell it and it's worth over £500,000, you would pay it then. Now, according to what The Guardian are saying, currently 60% of buyers pay stamp duty, and this would affect only, they say, 20% of sellers, because the average house price is about $272,000. So this is a way, they think, of making money from better off owners while not sort of gumming up the market and potentially people buying lower value houses. And I think it is worth saying, people like Paul Johnson, who used to be in charge of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, has described stamp duty as perhaps the worst and most damaging tax we have, because it does put an obstacle into buying houses. So also, I think it's interesting that this is actually coming from an onward centre-right think tank report that originally made some of these suggestions. Council tax, of course, that would be very difficult, potentially very unpopular, but we know too that that's actually very, very unfair at the moment.
Well, Catherine, you've set us up brilliant, because up next is actually the author of that very report that you mentioned from the Onward think tank, the former government advisor Tim Lewing. Tim, thanks for joining us. Now, last year, you wrote this report for the Onward think tank that suggested a whole-scale sort of reform of both council tax and stamp duty. The Chancellor seems to be sort of inching towards your position, but maybe not the whole way.
Well, who knows, right? I don't know anything more than you do. I have no inside information. The Treasury never leaks to you or to me unless they really want to, and then they do it much more discreetly. But yes, the newspaper reports say that Rachel Reeves is thinking about becoming one of the great tax reforming chancellors in Britain's history by tackling some of the worst taxes we have, council tax and stamp duty, which, as Catherine said, are both appalling taxes.
Now, of course.
Yes, but the worry is what replaces it, Tim. Are we going to end up paying more tax or less tax? That's what people care about.
Absolutely, and that's why my proposal said that on average people would pay exactly the same amount as now. Whether it's more or less is a different question to how you raise it.
Well,
But
that's the
stamp
tricky
duty,
point for the Chancellor then. If it's the same amount of money, then it's not going to serve her. So she is going to try and get some more out of us, surely, on this.
Well, she's got to get more out of us some way, because ultimately the last government cut taxes when they couldn't afford it, and this government wants to spend more money. So a combination of those two things means one way or another taxes are going up. And the question is, do you prefer taxes to go up on property, income, spending? What do you want them to go up on less than anything else? Because no one wants taxes to go up.
Now, according to some of these reports this morning, the Treasury isn't looking at doing the full-scale sort of annual property tax that you suggested that would replace council tax, that would perhaps be much more fair than a system that takes the value of your property as it would have been in 1990. But what the Treasury is looking at could be just shifting the incidence of paying an effective stamp duty from the buyer to the seller. I mean, is that really all that radical?
So I doubt they're going to make it on the seller rather than the buyer. I really doubt that. I think the Guardian's phrasing, it said after the sale. And I think what they're talking about, what I was talking about, was an annual tax every year after a house is sold. So it wouldn't be retrospective. If you bought your house this week, you wouldn't suddenly be clobbered by another tax next week because you've just paid stamp duty. But next time it was sold, you wouldn't pay stamp duty, but you would pay an annual
Tim,
tax
when you
after.
buy a house, how on earth are you supposed to account for these annual taxes coming down the line? You know, you may have a property, but not much cash in the bank. You may have, and would they have to make a survey the home's value every single year to work out how much? How would it work?
No. So well, first of all, you'd be saving the stamp duty up front. So you've got a pot of money to pay it with, but you just use, I propose, the price you paid, and it would go up in line with inflation on a formula. So I propose 0.54% above $500,000. To give you an idea of what that means, it means if you buy a house at $600,000, you'd pay £540 a year every year in perpetuity, but you'd save £20,000 up front because you wouldn't have to pay.
But that's not fair. Why should it be in line with inflation? Properties around the country rise in price, in value very differently, don't they, depending on where they are?
They do, but because it saves you having to assess it every single year, which is an absolute nightmare. Having recently sold my mum's house, she died a year ago, we sold her house, I can tell you Zoopla valuations are not that reliable. It's really hard to work out what a house is worth with any accuracy. And to base a tax on an algorithm that may or may not be accurate, I don't think a government should go there. So I just went for a nice simple inflation. When the house is sold again, it gets reset to the actual value.
Tim, I've got to ask you on a personal level, of course, you wrote this report last year. The Chancellor and the Treasury, or at least Treasury officials who are briefing this out today to the papers, keep citing your report. Do you think they're using it as a bit of a smokescreen? Did they reach out to you? Have you had any conversations with the Treasury? Or do you think they're just trying to peg it on the centre-right and then do something slightly different?
I've had no conversations with this about the Treasury since I published. Or certainly not in the last couple of days. They know where I am. I worked in the Treasury. I have many friends there. To the best of my knowledge, I have no missed calls. The world of that side of things is not my expertise. I'm an economist. That's what I always did then. I'm always happy to help the centre-right, the centre-left, or anyone serious in Britain. It's not a political thing, it's not a left-wing thing, it's not a right-wing thing. It's just that bad taxes are bad news for economic growth, and we should try and get rid of them.
I know, I just wish we didn't have to replace them with something else. You know? Stamp duty, it's only been around for, what, 2-3 centuries or something, stamp duty? You know, time to just act it, you know? And I think it was another one that was made for a war with the French, or at least to fund a war with the French. Anyway, Tim...
Income tax, a temporary tax that was meant to go away after Napoleon. Thanks, Pitt the Younger.
Tim Loynig, thank you very much, former government advisor and author of this report on this these taxes. I'm sure, I don't know, they'll find some way of making it cost us all a hell of a lot more.
But I mean, it is hard to overemphasise how bad stamp duty is. I mean, it stops people from moving about. Like, if you want an efficient property market, you want people to be easily able to move to a new job, for example, or to downsize or to upsize if you have a family, if you've sort of getting older and you might want to move somewhere else. If that's going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds just to move without any benefits, or you're going to lose value in your house, you're not going to do the move. So then everyone's stuck in the wrong house.
I know, but paying an annual tax for forever, just for the privilege of living in the home that you've bought yourself, I don't like the idea of that. How are you supposed to account for that?
But
if you lose your job,
if you were going to pay £40,000 of stamp duty
on top of the mortgage and everything else,
if you're going to pay £40,000 of stamp duty, you no longer have to pay that, and then you pay 500 quid a year instead. I think that sounds like a fair deal. The question,
well,
as you rightly raised,
if your property was $1 million, it would be £8,000 a year. On top of all the other taxes, etc., etc. So, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. She's just throwing out ideas at this stage, isn't she?
We'll see. We'll have to wait for that
Chancellor, that is.
budget. But in other news, Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have reportedly agreed to a one-on-one sit-down meeting within the next fortnight.
Yes, if such a meeting were to take place, it would be the first direct talks between the two since Russia's full-scale invasion began back in February 2022.
Yeah, this is really significant. The breakthrough, of course, came after a phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, a call that was actually interrupting the US president's meeting with Zelensky.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, with the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of format, but on the level of leaders.
Well, during the meeting, President Trump also pledged to provide military support to Ukraine, but only if a ceasefire deal is reached.
When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Well, so with the meeting between Zelensky and Putin on the horizon, is this finally the beginning of the end to the war, or just another false dawn?
Well, let's speak to the former Defence Secretary, Sir Liam Fox. Sir Liam, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Was it really a breakthrough meeting yesterday, or is this all being over-egged?
Well, we have to wait and see. We don't really know any of the details yet. And so as they're being worked out as we speak, we'll get to know what they are. It's very clear that Ukraine will demand some pretty deliverable security guarantees. Remember that Ukraine gave up the nuclear weapons that they had as a result of the breakup of the Soviet Union, and they traded them away for a security guarantee in what was called the Budapest Memorandum in 1994, where Russia actually guaranteed the sovereign territory of Ukraine would be protected. And of course, that promise was worth nothing. So Ukraine will be looking for something a little bit more than warm words from the Western leaders.
No, there was a bit of a hot mic moment, wasn't there, where Donald Trump was caught on a microphone saying, I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. He seems to think that Putin has some goodwill towards him as the president.
Well, it would be nice to think it, wouldn't it? But when it comes to Vladimir Putin, all good people end up in the same place, which is that this is not a man you can trust. And it's the goodwill in the sense of reconciliation, compromise, that's pretty hardwired into Western leaders. Is not reciprocated by Vladimir Putin, who is a tyrant, who kills his political opponents at home and murders his opponents abroad. So, wishful thinking is not a good basis for security.
This meeting that will be between Zelensky and Putin, perhaps in the next 2 weeks, I mean, this will be a really significant moment. I can't imagine the leaders of two sides of such a fraught and vicious conflict meeting. Could you imagine Churchill meeting Hitler? Could you imagine two opposing sides sitting down together, the Duke of Wellington and Napoleon, just having a cup of tea? I mean, I honestly can't imagine how this thing will actually play out.
Well, as the German Chancellor said, it would be hard to imagine such a meeting happening if there wasn't a ceasefire in place, because very hard if your people are actually being killed in real time to be talking to the people who are killing them. So I think that the German Chancellor is right on that. But clearly it would be a significant meeting, but it's only going to happen if Ukraine has those security guarantees. Will it be something like an Article 5 guarantee that NATO has, that any attack on Ukraine in the future would be regarded as an attack on NATO itself? We'll need to see what comes out of that, what mechanisms would be put on the ground to ensure the security of Ukraine. Would it be armed forces, i.e. boots on the ground? And if so, where would they be from? Would it be putting new weapons into Ukraine? Would it be patrols, air patrols and sea patrols? There are a whole range of things. I understand that the Chief of the Defence Staff, Satoni Radikin, has been tasked with dealing with some of those subjects. And I can't think of anyone more respected or more credible in carrying that exercise out.
OK, well, Sir Liam Fox, thank you very much indeed. Former Defence Secretary, great to have you on the show.
Well, now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year, plus have 5,000 quid in your bank to play with. And if you don't pay a monthly mortgage or rent payment, we'll give you 15 grand in cash instead. Here are the details.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're
reigning supreme this morning. I'm so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did you enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah,
honestly, why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience. The thing is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but it really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's my job. That's my job. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know, though, for how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won it. It was brilliant.
Would it have been better? I was still going to say.
Are you looking at
you know, but in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so. No. I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it. And they were underdogs. I mean, they were.
Yeah.
You'll have players that will say, "Oh no, I don't think so." And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it.
Yeah, they were
but the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions, and also pound for pound. If you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you. They would have been the better side, but it's a team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 29 minutes past midday. Now, former Just Stop Oil tycoon, of course, he runs the Ecotricity company, providing clean, green energy across the country. Dale Vince has caused a storm over a huge 30-foot tall Palestinian flag being flown on the front of that very HQ of his green energy firm in Stroud.
Yes, it's absolutely enormous. You couldn't miss it if you were driving past, could you? Locals in the Cotswolds town have demanded the long-time Labour donor removes the banner from his office building, saying symbols from foreign wars have no place in their quaint community.
So while councils are ripping down Union Jacks, should a mega political donor be allowed to fly such a giant Palestinian flag, or I suppose any flag at all? Well,
yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? We're joined by the chairman of the National Jurist Assembly, Gary Mond, and the broadcaster, Fahima Mohammed, who will have different views on this, I'm sure. Gary, I'll start with you. Should he take this flag down?
Of course he should. That flag represents a terror organisation. It was created by Yasser Arafat, the founder of the PLO, in 1964, at a time when Egypt occupied Gaza and Jordan occupied the West Bank. They believe Palestine is the entire territory of the State of Israel. It represents the destruction of Israel, and it also represents Jew hatred. Absolutely, that flag should be taken down. And I believe most locals who don't really have a view on the Middle East issue at all want it taken down as well. It's got nothing to do with, as Dale Vince says, shadowy Israeli lawyers. What a joke.
OK, let's throw that over to Fahima.
Well, I think what you just said there, Gary, unfortunately, for most people across the globe, do not agree with you. That does not represent Hamas. It is a misrepresentation and misinformation. And we've shown many flags. I've let you speak. Please let me continue without interruption. OK, this is not about foreign policy. It's about freedom of expression and solidarity with the oppressed people. We fly the Cornish flag, the Pride flag, even football flags, and there's never been an outrage, even if it comes to Tibet or Ukraine. And a lot of, countries across the globe recognize Palestine. Even the Prime Minister today is actually, in making sort of, ways in which in future Palestine will be recognized, even if it's a non-sovereign state at this very moment in time. That did not stop, Tibetans or the Cornish flag or anything else in the past. And for you to display an entire region as being Hamas supporters is completely wrong. You've constantly said that narrative, and that is absolutely wrong.
Okay.
Even
I
in
didn't
Israel,
say.
do
I didn't
disagree
mention
with you.
Hamas.
Let Gary come back to that. Let Gary come back to that.
I didn't mention Hamas at all in my earlier remarks. This flag was formed by Yasser Arafat, the leader of the PLO, in 1964, and at a time when Israel did not occupy Gaza or the West Bank. That flag represents the destruction of the state of Israel, no more and no less. And it is a flag that represents and is seen by so many of the Jewish community in Britain to represent Jew hatred, the way it's displayed on all the marches
That is incorrect. That is incorrect. There are 13 Jewish organizations that even stand with the Solidarity for Palestine, Holocaust survivors, ministers, even ex-prime ministers.
They are a tiny minority.
They are all Jewish, and they're all in solidarity with Palestine. And they recognize there is only the far-right extremists in the Netanyahu government, which includes yourself right now, by the way you're speaking, who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about, and are extremist, ethnocentric, and are there to destroy the Palestinians.
Okay, that's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of accusations there. Fahima, one moment. There's quite a lot of accusations that you've thrown at Gary. Gary, do you want to come back on those?
That is from Channel 13.
Hang on, Fahima. We'll come back to you.
Let me speak, Fahima.
We'll come back to you, Fahima, Gary.
Please let me speak. The viewpoint that the Palestinians essentially wish to destroy Israel and the Jews there is widely held. It is not just a question of you saying, oh, well, there's lots of Jews who actually support a Palestinian state. There are a heck of a lot more who do not. And there are a heck of a lot of people around the world who do not support the notion of Jew hatred, which that flag represents.
But you haven't seen the protests in Israel right now. Even in Netanyahu, in his own government, they actually state that they want to take over. They are the ones that are causing destruction, not the other way around as you described. That is completely incorrect. And that is on Jewish TV. That is not even here.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there because we've run out of time. But thank you very much indeed, Gary Mond and Fahima Mohammed. Clearly, it's divisive by virtue of having a debate on that. And Dale Vince will, I assume, know that.
Yes, although I think it is fair to say that different people see that flag and think different things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To some people, that is a flag of violence. To other people, it's a flag of peace.
Yes, I just don't know why Dale Vince thinks that everyone needs to know his position on a foreign war. Anyway, we can see now live footage of thousands of firefighters battling the massive wildfires across Spain and Portugal.
Yes, temperatures soaring above 44 degrees centigrade over that weekend. The region is facing some of the worst blazes in recent history, with a record amount of land already burnt.
44 degrees, oh, that's very hot indeed. Well, we'll keep an eye on those wildfires as they rage across Spain for you. But this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News next.
Yes, pornography exposure amongst children is getting worse, not better, since the Online Safety Act was passed. Shocking new research finds that some as young as 6 years old have already seen that material.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty grey day for most places today. Not a lot of rain around. Do have a few showers across parts of Devon and Cornwall in particular, thanks to an area of low pressure. But high pressure dominating to the north. There is a weak weather front dribbling in here. That's going to introduce some cooler conditions and maybe a little bit of drizzly rain across the northeast of Scotland. It's at the opposite end of the country, though, where we do have a few heavy showers. Parts of Devon and Cornwall might catch a downpour this afternoon. Still fairly hit and miss. Still most places going to be dry. A lot of cloud, as I said, but there's some sunshine over southeast England, West Wales and western Scotland, where we see some sun. Temperatures in the mid-20s perhaps. Where it stays cloudy, particularly on these North Sea coasts, feeling quite chilly actually for the time of year. Temperatures only 16 or 17 degrees. But as I say, some sunny skies across the extreme southeast. In the far southwest, still one or two heavy showers, maybe even the old rumble of thunder for Devon and Cornwall. West Wales, western parts of Northern Ireland doing okay for sunshine, and the west coast of Scotland too. But for many eastern areas, staying pretty glum. And this thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, always capable of producing a little bit of drizzly rain at times, but nothing too heavy. As we go through the nights, we should start to see any showers in the southwest fading away, and also some clearer skies coming into the northeast of Scotland, and that will allow temperatures to fall away, getting down into single figures through rural parts of Scotland for sure. So quite a fresh start here tomorrow. Still a lot of cloud elsewhere, so temperatures mostly holding up at 12 to 14 degrees. So starts quite cloudy tomorrow across a good chunk of England and Wales, but overall I'm hopeful for much more sunshine tomorrow. I think the cloud will break up, particularly by mid to late morning, to reveal some good spells of sunshine, and many places will have a fine afternoon with quite a lot of summer sunshine. Not quite as warm as today, but still temperatures high teens, low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Motorists on the A9 southbound at Balhaldy should take caution due to a broken down vehicle. Allow extra time. In Pontypool, roadworks have closed the A4042 northbound between Pontypool Roundabout and Court Farm Roundabout, with diversions available. Traffic on the M25 clockwise between junction 5 and 6 in Surrey faces a lane closure due to a broken down vehicle, with delays of about 15 minutes. Normal traffic conditions will resume after 2 this afternoon. And on the trains, there are disruptions on the Elizabeth line between London Paddington and Heathrow terminals, as well as on Greater Anglia between Cheshunt and Stansted Airport or Cambridge. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 38 minutes past midday. Now, shocking new statistics have revealed that children as young as 6 are being exposed to pornography online by accident.
Yes, online algorithms regularly directed children to violent, extreme and degrading material, most commonly on X, formerly Twitter, with 45% of children saying they've come into contact with it. That is truly shocking, if as young as 6 years old.
Well, joining us now is the parenting expert, Annette Kello. Annette, this is really shocking because this is despite the passage of this law. Children are still finding stuff.
Absolutely. I think what we've got is a real problem here with freedom of speech versus surveillance, and it's almost like a war has started. We know 7 out of 10 children in a new survey have accidentally seen porn. We don't know how accidental that is, but we know that lots of parents aren't monitoring their screen time as well. VPNs have obviously gone through the roof. They're like the top 10 most downloaded thing. But behind that, overseas companies mainly own the VPNs, which are then harvesting data from children.
Let's just explain what the VPNs are. They allow you to pretend to be in another country, right? To circumvent
a virtual private network where you can just pretend that you're accessing a website from a different country and thereby get around
where there aren't any
UK
rules.
censorship.
Yeah.
It's actually, ironically, it's what the government just a few years ago was telling everyone in Russia to get, so that they could get around the Russian censorship.
Yeah, true.
And now here we are in the United Kingdom.
And apparently Russia owns a lot of them, as do China. So we're going round in a bit of a merry-go-round here. But I think one would look at why are people going on? Why are people looking at these things? Why are they seeing them online? And if we look at, say, something like OnlyFans, which has a paywall, a lot of this stuff doesn't have a paywall. I'm talking about porn specifically here because a lot of the surveys have been about children as young as 6 looking at porn. And so that's a huge problem.
Do you think this is inevitable when we sort of say parents shouldn't have to worry about this, don't worry, the government's got it all, the government's going to solve all of the problems and no children will watch? Have we abrogated parental duty here, and is that creating perhaps more of a problem?
Absolutely. Parents believe, I mean, only 32% of parents apparently put safety measures in place for their children online. So that's not very much. And actually 1 in 10 parents lets their children do whatever online.
That is so irresponsible.
Yes.
I don't care what your circumstances are. I don't care if you work 2, 3 jobs. You do not just let your young child have total free reign on the internet. I mean, so dangerous.
I mean, what's wrong with a bit of Play-Doh and Lego? You know, why are they going on these things?
Crazy.
I
the stuff
worry
that's
that
on the internet
Well, but then if the government says, don't worry, we're making the internet safe, and they're clearly not, because there are all sorts of holes in this thing, the government can never be 100% on top of everything.
You can't.
If they have this thing called the Online Safety Act, how many parents are going to think, oh, it's fine, I can give my child an iPad, I can give my child a laptop, a mobile phone, they'll be fine, the government sorted it all.
It's like if the school brushes your child's teeth for you, then, you know, it's the government's fault if your child's teeth aren't brushed,
Exactly. I mean, it's a bit like Rachel Reeves with the breakfast clubs, which are not really working. You know, they try these things, they bring it out as a solution, parents believe it and don't question it, and then we get in this huge problem. And I wonder how much it's actually going to cost by rectifying or trying to do anything with this, because from where I mean, I must admit, initially I thought children do need protecting on certain websites, but I see there's just too many problems. People can't watch parliamentary debates or things that may even be quite educational for children because of this. And actually the tech companies, if you think they're on your side with the government, they're absolutely not. You know, we know they show the algorithm for gambling, to see what people will, you know, get children in young, because then later down the line they're going to be great customers. Same with porn, unfortunately. I don't think the tech companies care about the fines. I actually think they just see it as a little, you know, chuck away for business booming.
I wonder if we'll ever solve this problem, really. I mean, the internet is just so vast, so readily available. Even if you put all the restrictions you like on your child's phone, or even take away their phone, their mate at school might show them something, their older brother might show them something, whatever it is.
Well, this is the thing. When I was at school, we used to, before smartphones,
oh, God.
we Bluetoothed songs to each other on our Motorollas.
Didn't know what you were going to say there, Tom.
No, it's sort of ringtones.
Got the Zoo magazine.
I'm sure it's a lot more developed from back when I had a Motorola Razor. But now that all the kids have iPhones and all the rest of it, people are going to be using encrypted messaging chats. Like WhatsApp, like other sorts of messaging apps that are encrypted so no one can see. And in some ways, that's going to be much, much harder to track or police. As a parent, you think, oh, my child is just texting their friend. But actually, all sorts of material is being shared between the children.
Well, parents can put things on the phones to look at what they are doing, but a lot of parents really don't do that. But the other thing is why is a 6-year-old on a phone?
Yes.
Like, I don't mean to be funny. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I always get, like, I even have parents say to me, gosh, you're a bit strict with the screen time, and because I monitor everything my son's doing. He's 7. Why are children let loose with phones? I'm sorry. You cannot ask the government to help you. You cannot ask the tech companies to help you. You need to do it as a parent yourself. It's your responsibility. I don't get what's so crazy or controversial about that.
It does seem extraordinary. Very, very young children having their own devices. I mean, I had a Sony Walkman, but that was about it. I mean, but then obviously...
That's pretty safe.
I think there's a big difference, though, between... Well, once you get to sort of 13, 14, of course they should have their own mobile phones, probably with some restrictions, fewer restrictions as they get older. I think by the time you're about 16, you probably shouldn't have really any restrictions at all. But the government seems to want to treat a 13-year-old as if they're a 17-year-old.
I still had restrictions when I was 16.
Yeah, I think you have to look as well at why are they looking at it? Are they curious to see, you know, how do things work? Maybe they live in a household where the parent doesn't talk to them about sex or things like that, and they're curious. But then other things, they're being egged on by their mates. And I'm even seeing it now at the small age of my son, who's 7. Everyone's getting Roblox. He doesn't have Roblox. Oh, why doesn't he have it?
That's a game, a sort of multiplayer game.
And, you know, there's paedophiles on Roblox. So it's so I do think it's really, really scary. But basically, we have to just look at how we can protect them as children. And that's the most important thing now.
They use their children for content online. That's a massive trend, and it can be very wholesome, but also you are, you know, showing a lot about your child's life online on TikTok. I mean, there are parents who are making huge amounts of money from showcasing their relationship with their child.
And
you're a public figure, Emily. And as is your husband. You're going to have a child soon.
Oh, that's a big question,
have you thought about how you... Because some people sort of obviously post their children but don't show faces. Some people... Have you had that conversation?
I don't know, because I wish you could share everything, because it's nice and people care and people have nice things to say.
I'm sure people would love to see it,
but we live in a dangerous world.
Absolutely, and actually there was a survey recently on TikTok where they looked at, like, mummy bloggers and people that were doing children things, and the demographics, a lot of it was older males saving the videos. Now, why would an older male particularly want to be watching a child? One has to ask that.
Yes, I do notice this when people post on TikTok young children, and then there's loads of saved lots of people have saved it, and you do wonder why. Annette Kello, thank you very much indeed, parenting expert there. Sorry to scare everyone on a Tuesday afternoon.
Shall we move on to some brighter news now? Because, of course, it is the summertime. It is those summer holidays. Many people will be travelling away over this week, next week, or further afield. Shall we have a look at the European weather?
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading further afield for a holiday, well, you can expect some thunderstorms across the south of France, the Alps, northern Italy. Breezy for Portugal, extending into Madeira and the Canaries, that breeze. Across much of Iberia, it's fine, but towards the north into Andorra, the south of France, and more especially northern Italy and the Alps, some very heavy and lively thunderstorms are expected. Plenty of sunshine, meanwhile, for Greece. Temperatures back closer to average following the heatwave last week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain. We're on GB News and we've got lots more coming up.
Yes, it's what you've all been waiting for. We're going to be live in Benidorm, asking some of the Brits on the beach what they make of the state of the United Kingdom.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. We might save Benidorm just a few more minutes for you.
Oh, well. Have you seen this, Tom?
What's this?
A council is causing controversy. Now, A lot of local councils are doing that recently.
Oh, yeah?
But this one is over woke language, and it's Greenwich Council, where civil servants are being told not to use the words husband and wife.
Right, OK. This is all about a new 45-page guide that instead orders staff to say spouse or partner, all in a bid to prevent offence.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to call a married couple husband and wife. Very outdated. You should use the term spouse or partner, Tom, to avoid offending anyone not identifying with a gender, and there are some people like that. And yes, this is the Royal Borough of Greenwich in South East London, and the Sun newspaper obtained this balmy guide, is what they're describing it as, using a Freedom of Information request. And apparently, married couple, it's just the traditional terms are just no longer acceptable.
So this is when people are contacting the council, going in to speak to someone at the council?
Yeah, so you wouldn't say, oh, are you husband and wife? You'd say, are you partners?
Right.
Is this your spouse?
Life partners, is
this your life partner? I mean, would you use the term partner or... if someone who's unmarried...
Yes.
Would you say girlfriend, boyfriend, or would you say partner?
I think girlfriend, boyfriend sounds a bit childish, does it not?
Do you think it's only up to the age of 30 or something?
Yeah.
And then past that, it's partner.
I think once
lover. I like lover.
I think lover implies too much activity.
Too much activity, right?
But I think it is. Why is it unusual or considered wrong to suggest that if a man and a woman walk in together, holding hands, isn't the most likely thing that they're man and wife? That's...
Man and wife. See, I think that's probably even more...
Is that archaic?
That's probably even more archaic. Yeah, that's not appropriate anymore, man and wife.
Why not?
Because you're saying the man is the man and the wife is just the wife.
Well, not just the wife.
But,
the wife is the wife.
Do you see how one is...
one is
Yeah, they're different identifiers, Tom.
They are different identifiers. I hadn't actually thought about that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But, that's just that embedded misogyny.
Or it's just language. And I know that there will be 5% of couples who are life partners who aren't married, but I mean, they must be used to knowing that they are in an atypical living arrangement if they're living together and perhaps have children and are unmarried. That is still a minority of people. Perfectly legitimate way to live your life, of course, but you shouldn't be too offended if someone assumes that you're married.
Well, apparently staff who are running events at this council are also being warned against welcoming ladies and gentlemen. Again, because, you know, there might be the odd non-binary person, but, I mean, they're not going to be upset, are they?
Why would they... ladies and gentlemen is a greeting that...
Sam Smith probably says ladies and gentlemen.
But also, I mean, not everyone is a gentleman. Some of them will be absolute oiks. And that's good. You still say ladies and gentlemen, even though there will be very few people who have the correct manners and are wearing the right attire to be considered gentlemen and ladies.
I like the word lout.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's just a good one, isn't it?
Louts
An
and
alternative to oik. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Let us know if you still use the antiquated term ladies and gentlemen, or husband and wife, even. Anyway, a London pub is putting 4% on every single pint as a...
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty grey day for most places today. Not a lot of rain around. Do have a few showers across parts of Devon and Cornwall in particular, thanks to an area of low pressure. But high pressure dominating to the north. There is a weak weather front dribbling in here. That's going to introduce some cooler conditions and maybe a little bit of drizzly rain across the northeast of Scotland. It's at the opposite end of the country, though, where we do have a few heavy showers. Parts of Devon and Cornwall might catch a downpour this afternoon. Still fairly hit and miss. Still most places going to be dry. A lot of cloud, as I said, but there's some sunshine over southeast England, West Wales and western Scotland, where we see some sun. Temperatures in the mid-20s perhaps. Where it stays cloudy, particularly on these North Sea coasts, feeling quite chilly actually for the time of year. Temperatures only 16 or 17 degrees. But as I say, some sunny skies across the extreme southeast. In the far southwest, still one or two heavy showers, maybe even the old rumble of thunder for Devon and Cornwall. West Wales, western parts of Northern Ireland doing OK for sunshine, and the west coast of Scotland too. But for many eastern areas, staying pretty glum. And this thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, always capable of producing a little bit of drizzly rain at times, but nothing too heavy. As we go through the night, we should start to see any showers in the southwest fading away, and also some clearer skies coming into the northeast of Scotland, and that will allow temperatures to fall away, getting down into single figures through rural parts of Scotland for sure. So quite a fresh start here tomorrow. Still a lot of cloud elsewhere, so temperatures mostly holding up at 12 to 14 degrees. So starts quite cloudy tomorrow across a good chunk of England and Wales, but overall I'm hopeful for much more sunshine tomorrow. I think the cloud will break up, particularly by mid to late morning, to reveal some good spells of sunshine, and many places will have a fine afternoon with quite a lot of summer sunshine. Not quite as warm as today, but still temperatures high teens, low 20s.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
You've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. This would change my life.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GBNews.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I find this a very sad story, that we are considerably less electrified than comparable economies. Is it a sad story?
It covers the trials, tribulations, but also the triumphs of electrification in this country, because we have done some things very well. HS1, for example, I worked on that, the Channel Tunnel rail link, and Don Heath, my co-author, was the project director of the East Coast Main Line, the longest work site in the UK, and indeed I think in Europe in the 1980s. And he brought that job in on time and on budget, as indeed HS1 did. In fact, he got to Leeds a year early and saved £1 million. So we have done some things well.
So first, as it were, the decision-making side of it, and then we'll talk about implementation. So why is it that Britain has not decided to do more electrification in what I would call a timely way?
I think it's primarily because we have no strategy. We had no strategy for electrification, and that goes back right to the 1800s.
Was it the case that British Railways was sort of romantically connected to steam, wouldn't give up steam, and then, rather oddly, became rather infatuated with diesel as well?
Yeah, that's a point, or a number of points that we bring out in the book, actually, because there were different factions in the 1950s. Some people wanted to stick with steam and go straight to electrification. Robert Riddles, for example, he was the chief engineer. But other people thought that the infrastructure requirements were too big, and that wouldn't it be better to go for diesel-electric traction and have some benefit from the electric.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th of August. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
More money in the pockets of working people. Higher living standards promised by this Labour government, delivered by this Labour government.
The government eyeing up a radical shake-up of home taxes. Yes, the Chancellor is considering ripping up stamp duty and replacing it with an annual property tax. But could it leave homeowners paying more?
Rachel Reeves has a £20 billion plus black hole. Where have we heard that before? She's looking at ways to raise money. Could your home be one of them? I'll bring you more details shortly.
While difficult, peace is within reach, and I believe that in a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine.
President Zelensky hails his best talks yet with President Donald Trump, low bar. At the White House yesterday, the US president promises security guarantees for Ukraine and says a deal with Russia could be struck even while war rages on. So is there really an end in sight?
And stay tuned, because in the next hour we'll find out if an Essex council has won its bid to block asylum seekers from being housed at the Bell Hotel in Epping after protests and claims the site is breaching planning rules.
Elsewhere, has tipping got out of control? Yes, one London pub slaps an automatic 4% service charge on every order at the bar, even adding 30 pence to the price of a pint.
And speaking of pints and beer and the like, the Guinness guzzling pony, with fans from around the world now cutting back on the pints. Yes, Patrick the pony, once famed for his pub trips and daily stout, has had to go teetotal with tourists, though he still sneaks the odd sip as a special treat. How cute.
And hola! GB News hits Benidorm. We're asking holidaymakers soaking up the 35-degree sunshine what they really think of the headlines back here in Blighty. Now, here's a little bit of news for you. The Labour MP Mike Reader has been spotted replying to constituents on a train using ChatGPT.
Well, you know, my first thought on this one was, well, if it's going to save him some time, his staff probably are doing it, so why can't he?
Well, it depends what the prompt is. If he's just plonking in the constituent's email and saying, write a response to this,
yes.
I mean, isn't that a bit... surely some original thought should go into it.
Yeah, you're probably quite correct. Yes, and aren't there sort of data issues potentially?
Oh yeah, anything you put in ChatGPT, I mean, it could get sucked up into that ChatGPT vortex and be eked out by someone clever using clever prompts elsewhere. But Catherine Forster is with us in the studio, and Catherine, do you think a lot of MPs secretly do this? Use AI to respond to constituents?
It's difficult to tell. We know that increasingly AI is being used, though, in government, in every field of work, isn't it? We also know that it's going to take up loads of jobs. I am not tech savvy enough to use it properly, perhaps because of my age. I do like it when you ask, OK, Google, a question on your phone, you get the AI overview.
Yes.
And I do find that quite often you can ask something quite specific and it will get to the nub of it. So I think that's pretty useful. But, yeah, I'm not sure about MPs using it like that.
I think there's a difference in terms of how you use it. Some people use it to search for things and get to the nub of an issue quickly and then, off the basis of that information, write their own response.
Yes.
Other people, lazy people, just get the thing to write something entirely for them.
Yeah.
And you can usually tell.
You can tell.
There are certain tells.
But maybe you won't be able to tell.
M dashes. It's always M dashes. A certain type of hyphen used by ChatGPT. Whenever you see a sort of reasonable length of text that has a bunch of M dashes in it, always ChatGPT.
Well, Tom knows. He's keeping a keen eye on whether you're doing your own homework or you're not.
Although it is really hard to tell for teachers.
Do you know what the issue is? Sorry, just to go back to the train and this. I think the issue is him doing that kind of private work on a train. Because if it's about constituents, you know, clearly someone's just had a little look. You wouldn't want your name and address on there, would you?
That's true. I wonder if he was in business class, first
so
class.
it's OK if he's in first class then?
Well, less likely to be spied upon.
Maybe.
But then again, you have to ask, is it our taxes paying for that train ticket?
He's had to issue a statement.
Well, we should say that a spokesperson for Mr Reader says, like all MPs, Mr Reader receives a high volume of correspondence from the constituents and he prides himself on responding in a timely manner. Mr Reader takes his responsibility seriously when it comes to handling constituents' data and abides by all the relevant data protection legislation.
OK.
So that's that.
So that's that. Well, get your thoughts in. GBNews.com/your saver. Let's go to the headlines with Tatiana.
Thank you very much. The top story. Sir Keir Starmer has co-chaired Ukraine security guarantee meeting today with European leaders. The Prime Minister and French President Emmanuel Macron have both been leading the talks between nations looking to assist Ukraine. It's as Donald Trump says he's called Vladimir Putin to arrange a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents, following a phone call between the US president and his Russian counterpart, which Zelensky has called a significant step towards ending the war. Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have reportedly agreed to a one-on-one sit-down meeting within the next 2 weeks. It marks the first face-to-face meeting between the two since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February of 2022.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of format, but on the level of leaders.
Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer praised the US President for the peace talks at the Oval Office, saying there's been real progress made.
Today's meeting was good and constructive, and there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. These were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today.
Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey told GB News the UK needs to increase its support to Ukraine.
Still fear that Trump is driven by a desire to get a deal with President Putin and is putting that above the long-term interests of Ukraine and of European security. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a deal that Ukraine would willingly sign up to. I think the best response that Britain could make would be to strengthen the hand of Zelensky at negotiations by offering to increase our support for Ukraine, for example, with British Typhoon jet fighters. I think we have to make sure that Ukraine goes into those negotiations in the strongest possible way.
A woman dubbed the Ketamine Queen has agreed to plead guilty of selling the drugs that ultimately killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. 42-year-old Jasphine Sangha would plead guilty to 5 charges in Los Angeles, including 1 count of distributing ketamine resulting in death or bodily injury, according to the Justice Department. Perry was found dead in a backyard jacuzzi at his Los Angeles home in October 2023, with an examination finding his death was caused by the acute effects of ketamine. Sangha is one of 5 people, including medical doctors and the actor's assistant, who US officials say supplied ketamine to Perry, exploiting his drug addiction for profit and leading to his overdose death. Rachel Reeves is considering a new property tax that would apply to homes valued above £500,000, potentially replacing stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. The Chancellor is searching for various revenue-raising options while maintaining Labour's pledge to maintain the triple lock. Supermarket inflation fell slightly this month, but remains well past the point at which price rises really start to bite, according to latest figures. Grocery prices were 5% higher than a year ago in the 4th weeks to the 10th of August, according to market research firm World Panel by Numerator, which was recently renamed from Kantar. However, this was down from July's 5.2%, which represented a rise from inflation of 4.7% a month earlier and marked the highest level since January last year. And drivers are being warned over long delays on major routes. 17.6 million getaway trips by car are expected to take place in the UK over the August bank holiday period. The RAC, which issued the alert, urged drivers to set off as early as possible or be prepared to spend longer in traffic. The southeast and southwest are expected to have some of the worst congestion. Some 3 million journeys for holidays or day trips expected to be made on Friday. This rises to 3.4 million Saturday, 2.4 million Sunday and 2.7 million on Monday. Those are the latest headlines. More from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3520 and 1.1579 euros. The price of gold, £2,470 and 10 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,179 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past 1. Now, the Chancellor is weighing up a radical shake-up of taxes on British homes.
Yes, the reports are that the Chancellor could scrap stamp duty, which is one of the most hated taxes, isn't it? And even council tax, replacing them with a new national levy on homes worth more than £500,000.
Well, ministers say it could simplify the system, but critics warn it could leave millions of homeowners paying more.
Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Now, Catherine, we must say there are some conflicting reports on all of this. What do we actually know?
Well, we know that Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has got a black hole in excess of £20 billion. Remember that £22 billion one that they say the Tories left? Now they've got one entirely of their own making. So we know tax rises are coming. So they're looking for ways to raise money. Now, The Guardian have reported this. The Treasury is not confirming. They're saying no decision has been made. But reports that they are looking at potentially scrapping stamp duty, which of course is a tax that you pay when you buy a house, and replacing it with some sort of national property tax, which you would pay when you sell a house instead, potentially on houses worth £500,000 or more. Now, it's not clear if that would be paid as a lump sum or whether it would be paid on an annual basis going forward. But stamp duty is very, very unpopular. People like Paul Johnson, who used to head up the Institute for Fiscal Studies, have described stamp duty as perhaps the worst and most damaging tax that we have. It makes it harder for people to buy homes. And calculations are that it would affect 20% if it was on people selling over £500,000 homes. 20% of people would be affected, rather than currently 60% of people have to pay stamp duty. But we don't know ultimately how much is going to raise. The Treasury are thinking that it would ultimately raise about the same amount, which then begs the question, why are you going to do it if this is a way to try to raise money?
Yeah, no, some big questions there. And, of course, all of this is leaks and briefing, nothing official as of yet. Shall we speak to the property expert and broadcaster Richard Blanco now? Richard, thanks for being with us. I mean, it's hard to overstate how terrible a tax stamp duty is. It really stops people from buying the house they might want to, downsizing if they fancy it, moving to a new area with a new job, because they're going to have to give up a huge chunk of the value of the home that they buy in just paying the Treasury. Is it a sensible idea, therefore, to change that one big lump sum when you buy a house to a more manageable payment year on year?
Well, stamp duty is, of course, very unpopular. And, you know, part of the unpopularity is about the fact that the highest rate is 12%. And there's also, of course, the additional 5% that you pay if you have more than one property. So this idea that you would pay, that the seller would pay, and that it actually would only affect 20% of transactions rather than 60% could be quite a good solution. I think the other aspect of this is that we're seeing that potentially council tax could be replaced by a kind of wealth tax, where people would pay a certain amount every year depending on how much their property's worth. I think the problem with that is that that would shift to the owner rather than the occupier. So that's why it's been seen as more of a wealth tax. And that could be really unfair. You know, if you own a property that's very expensive and are letting it out and are not using any of the local council services. So I think there are potentially some flaws in that aspect of what seems to be in these proposals.
I mean, presumably the Chancellor, with the public finances as they are currently, wants to scrape as much money as she can from the British taxpayer. So I'm sceptical that this is going to be saving us cash. Is it not going to be adding to the tax bill, do you think? From what we know already.
Well, yes, I think potentially it could be a bit of a wealth tax sort of in sheep's clothing, if you'd like. Sorry for mixing metaphors there. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be very unpopular in the private rented sector if potentially property owners have to pay rather than the occupier, and that's going to pile even more tax on landlords. And ultimately, if costs go up for landlords, then that could be passed through to tenants in terms of higher rents.
So that's with the change from council tax to some kind of other levy. The renter wouldn't have to pay. It would be the person who owns the property. So it wouldn't be a consumer tax. It would be a wealth tax, as you say.
Exactly, yes. And that could be pretty negative because, already landlords are taxed on their finance costs. So they would be then taxed just by virtue of owning a property. And of course, someone's got to pay those additional taxes. And quite often what the landlord has to do is pass that extra cost through to the tenant.
Yeah, so the tenant will end up paying that tax anyway and probably lose out on a benefit. If it's a single tenant, probably not get that discount that they currently do and all the rest of it. I wonder, though, I mean, clearly we have a very peculiar system of council tax. I mean, a modest family home in Darlington could pay more council tax, actually, than a mansion in Westminster that's worth 5 times as much. I mean, we have this system that has been unreformed since the 1990s, based on the value of property as property was in the 1990s. But obviously the reason this hasn't changed over 30 years is that it's very difficult to suddenly say to people who find themselves in more expensive homes than they used to be because of the area in which they live, that they must now pay more tax.
Yes, I mean, council tax, of course, and refashioning it is a complete political hot potato. We would have to revalue all of the properties in England, and it would probably take the Valuation Office Agency a year to do that. And there'll be lots of winners and losers, and lots of those winners and losers could well be Labour voters. So, this
Richard, sorry, why is council tax linked to the value of your property anyway? Presumably, why isn't it linked to your income, for example?
Yes, I guess we've traditionally always had local tax that is linked to the value of the property. So if you abolish that, you would have to introduce a new kind of income tax.
Well, of course, we did have a Prime Minister who did try to abolish the link to the property. It was called, it was called the community charge, but rather besmirched as the poll tax.
And that ended up with riots, of course. So
Yes, well.
any government that's going to change this is going to have to tread very carefully.
OK, Richard Blanco, thank you very much, property expert and broadcaster. Yes, because presumably, I don't know, why was it a local authority just set it? And so you can't... So, I don't know. All of these taxes, I just wish there were fewer.
I think the principle here, though, is that currently we have just this massive tax that gums up the ability of people to move house.
Yeah.
So people move house less in this country than they do in other countries, which means people don't live in the most economically productive areas or are stuck in the wrong size house for them because it would cost them too much to move. If that can be made easier, that would be a very good thing. But, of course, it could also be that this is then used as a crowbar to get more tax out of people.
Yeah, which I fear. They always want more, don't they? They never say, oh, have a rebate. Anyway, Epping Forest District Council is expected to find out today if it has been successful in a High Court bid to temporarily block asylum seekers from being housed in the Bell Hotel.
Yes, this decision is expected within the next hour. So joining us now is the Home and Security Editor of this very channel, GB News, Mark White. Mark, this judgment expected now in around 40 minutes' time.
Yeah, good afternoon to you from the Royal Courts of Justice. A significant announcement in terms of the potential ramifications here, because what you have, of course, is Epping Forest District Council challenging that move by the Home Office to use the Bell Hotel in Epping as a hotel for asylum seekers, in light, of course, of those multiple protests, some of them violent, that have taken place over recent weeks. Now, their grounds for seeking an injunction to ban the use of the hotel as a migrant hotel are that the company involved, Somani Housing, the hotel chain, did not seek planning permission for a change of use. And they believe that housing migrants there is a complete change of use from what would be a free and open hotel for anyone to book into and for the use of the local community. So that's why they've taken it to the High Court, seeking that injunction. If that injunction is granted, then the Home Office and Somani Hotels have 14 days to clear those migrants out of there. It will bring, of course, an end to the protests that we've seen on a very regular basis. But if it goes against the Epping Forest District Council, then I'm afraid we're back to square one. It's a continuation of the protests and very concerned and angry people. Angry, of course, because of multiple incidents that have now been linked to asylum seekers at the hotel, a number of which are actually going through the court system at the moment and we can't really go into. And also, of course, if it does go in the favour of the council here, there are very significant ramifications for the Home Office going forward. What would that mean? It would potentially open the floodgates for other local authorities to start challenging the use of hotels in their area to house migrants.
Well, absolutely. The ramifications could be absolutely massive because as it stands, the Home Office has been able to do what it likes, really, in terms of putting migrants in various hotel accommodation. So this is the first case of its kind. This is the first ruling of its kind that we're anticipating today.
It's not actually, Emily. No, there was some similar cases in 2022. And this is the kind of hill, I'm afraid, that Epping District Council has to climb here because a number of hotels, almost half a dozen, I think, local authorities tried to seek similar injunctions effectively through the court system. And all but one were turned down. The one that wasn't turned down was in a seaside town, and the local authority there was able to argue on a specific point that that hotel was vital to the tourist economy in that area, and also having a migrant hotel on the seafront was not conducive to really the right kind of atmosphere that the local authority wanted to portray from this beach resort, this holiday resort. So they won on that narrow point, but the others all lost. So it would seem that Epping Forest District Council have a bit of a tough challenge ahead of them trying to persuade the judge. But listen, you never know. His reading of the law may be different from what it was in 2022. Let's see. It's not long to find out now, just 35 minutes or so.
Well, we'll speak to you then. Mark White, thank you very much for keeping on top of all of this. Mark White, our Home and Security Editor there outside the High Court. Wow. Yeah, well, time for the Great British Giveaway now. Your chance to live mortgage or rent-free, plus have an extra £5,000 in your bank to play with. Very useful when that homes tax takes place. Yeah. Well, we'll give you an extra £15,000 of cash instead if you don't have a mortgage to pay or indeed rent to pay either. Here are the details.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 27 minutes past 1. Now, a woman known as the Ketamine Queen has agreed to plead guilty in connection with a drug-related death of the Friends star Matthew Perry.
Yes, so Jasmine Sanger is set to plead guilty to 5 charges in Los Angeles, including distributing ketamine, resulting in death or serious injury. That's according to the US Department of Justice.
Well, joining us now is the showbiz journalist Julie Ann Traynor. Julie Ann, this is just a shocking story of someone who seemed to be supplying not just ketamine, but lots of drugs to the rich and the famous of New York City.
Absolutely. Jasmine Sanger, who has now been dubbed the Ketamine Queen, she was living this extravagant lifestyle, partying with the likes of Charlie Sheen and documenting all of this on her social media, and profiting through supplying drugs to the rich and famous in Hollywood. She now faces up to 65 years in prison because she has agreed to plead guilty to the death of Matthew Perry. So it'll be interesting now to see what prison sentence she faces. The fact that though she has agreed to plead guilty, she might face a significantly less sentence. But nonetheless, as a 42-year-old woman, she could spend the rest of her life behind bars. And this is, a massive change compared to the lifestyle that she was living, spending thousands of pounds on designer clothes and holidays and in jewellery. But also what's really sad in all of this, which was very damning, was the fact that there was text messages shown between her and the doctor who was supplying this drug as well. And they were saying things such as, how much should we charge this moron? So that was really quite crucial in the evidence in this investigation. And her case has been pushed back several times, but she is due to appear in court in the next few weeks, where she will make her plea.
And the fundamental accusation here is that the drugs that she sold to Matthew Perry were responsible directly for his death. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. 2 years ago now, it's almost 2 years, October 2023, he was found dead in his hot tub in his back garden in Los Angeles. And it turns out he'd become addicted to this, and they were supplying it to him illegally. And I mean, he had a very prolific drug addiction and alcohol addiction. He said in his memoirs that by the age of 14, he was an alcoholic. Even when he was filming Friends and earning millions of pounds for doing so, there were some episodes that he cannot even remember filming. And his castmates at one point staged an intervention which was unsuccessful. So he really had been trying for years, though, to get sober. And he had, throughout periods done that. But the fact that the ketamine queen and his assistant and these corrupt doctors knew he was struggling, and yet they were still supplying him and charging him extortionate amounts of money for this drug is just really, really tragic. I mean, his death could have been avoided.
No, that is the most tragic thing. I mean, I was instantly reminded, reading of this story, of Michael Jackson's doctor, who in the end was convicted of, I think, involuntary manslaughter in that occasion. But of course, with Michael Jackson's doctor, he was just supplying all of the sort of sleeping aids and all the rest that Michael Jackson was demanding. In this case, it seems that the ketamine queen was more pernicious in extracting as much money as she possibly could from this dependent celebrity. I mean, real cruelty.
Absolutely. And just 6 days before Matthew's death, she threw this massive 40th birthday party with no expense spared. And as I said, those text messages between her and the doctor, it just showed, I guess, how arrogant she was when it came to distributing them. She just didn't really fear any kind of consequences or take into consideration the fact that people could die from this.
Yeah, no care for the consequences at all. Julianne Traynor, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there, but really appreciate your time on this show as journalist Julianne Traynor. I mean, ketamine is a strong tranquiliser, isn't it?
For horses.
Yes, meant for animals. It's not meant for humans, and it could be hallucinogenic as well, can't it? I mean, I think people take it as a party drug, but clearly Matthew Perry had, real addiction issues. Very sad story.
Absolutely. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's lots more coming on today's programme, including, has tipping gone too far? Well, the debate heats up after a London pub has slapped a 4% service charge on pints pulled at the bar.
Would you ask them to take it off?
Good afternoon. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Donald Trump says he's called Vladimir Putin to arrange a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents following a phone call between he and his Russian counterpart, which President Zelensky says is a truly significant step towards ending the war. European leaders have held a debrief call after the talks with Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump at the White House yesterday. A woman dubbed the ketamine queen has agreed to plead guilty of selling the drugs that ultimately killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. Rachel Reeves is considering a new property tax that would apply to homes valued above £500,000, potentially replacing stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. And drivers are being warned over long delays on major routes as 17.6 million getaway trips by car are expected to take place in the UK over the August bank holiday period. Those are the latest headlines. More from me in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty grey day for most places today. Not a lot of rain around. Do have a few showers across parts of Devon and Cornwall in particular, thanks to an area of low pressure. But high pressure dominating to the north. There is a weak weather front dribbling in here. That's going to introduce some cooler conditions and maybe a little bit of drizzly rain across the northeast of Scotland. It's at the opposite end of the country, though, where we do have a few heavy showers. Parts of Devon and Cornwall might catch you downpours for this afternoon. Still fairly hit and miss. Still most places going to be dry. A lot of cloud, as I said, but there's some sunshine over southeast England, West Wales and western Scotland, where we see some sun. Temperatures in the mid-20s perhaps. Where it stays cloudy, particularly on these North Sea coasts, feeling quite chilly actually for the time of year. Temperatures only 16 or 17 degrees. But as I say, some sunny skies across the extreme southeast. In the far southwest, still one or two heavy showers, maybe even the old rumble of thunder for Devon and Cornwall. West Wales, western parts of Northern Ireland doing okay for sunshine, and the west coast of Scotland too. But for many eastern areas, staying pretty glum. And this thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, always capable of producing a little bit of drizzly rain at times, but nothing too heavy. As we go through the night, we should start to see any showers in the southwest fading away, and also some clearer skies coming into the northeast of Scotland, and that will allow temperatures to fall away, getting down into single figures through rural parts of Scotland for sure. So quite a fresh start here tomorrow. Still a lot of cloud elsewhere, so temperatures mostly holding up at 12 to 14 degrees. So starts quite cloudy tomorrow across a good chunk of England and Wales, but overall I'm hopeful for much more sunshine tomorrow. I think the cloud will break up, particularly by mid to late morning, to reveal some good spells of sunshine, and many places will have a fine afternoon with quite a lot of summer sunshine. Not quite as warm as today, but still temperatures high teens, low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road closures and lane restrictions are reported in several areas. Diversions are in place with a full closure on the A4042 northbound from Pontypool Roundabout to Court Farm Roundabout due to planned maintenance. On the M66 northbound, a broken down vehicle causes delays between Junction 2 and Junction 1 with one lane closed. Further ahead, the M25 clockwise exit slip at Junction 6 in Surrey has a closed lane due to a stranded vehicle. And on the trains, major disruption is reported between Cheshunt and Hertford East, Stansted Airport and Cambridge, particularly affecting the Stansted Express. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 37 minutes past 1, and tipping has gone a long way to being seen as a reward for good service. But recently, questions have been asked about whether tipping culture in the UK is beginning to go too far.
Yeah, so this all centres around one particular pub, the Well and Boot in Waterloo Station in London. They're adding a 4% service charge to all food and drink orders, even when customers are ordering directly at the bar. So it's adding around an optional 30p to the cost of a pint. Now, the thing is, they say it's optional, but it's on your, when you go to tap your phone or however you pay with your cash or whatever, it's there already.
Yeah.
Now, the likelihood of you saying, can I take that 30p off, I think for most Brits is slim to none.
No.
Too awkward.
Just not going to happen.
So it's basically just bumping up the price, isn't it?
So people say this is like the American system, but it's not like the American system, because under the American system, you tap to pay, and then it says, would you like to add a tip? And you either have to very obviously say no tip, or you have to tap the tip option. I've done this before in the States, where I've literally been on a train and bought a bottle of Coca-Cola from a man. All the man did was get it out of the fridge and put it on the thing. I gave $1 tip out of social embarrassment.
Are you stingy in general?
No.
Tight?
I don't think so. I just
generous?
I don't think I think I try and do the right thing. I try and do what most people would do. I don't go sort of overly ridiculous level of tips, but I feel bad if someone asks for a tip. I say no. I wouldn't say no tip.
I find it awkward. I went to Thailand for the honeymoon, and you don't know, stay in these hotels, and people bring a suitcase up to your room, and you might have a massage or something. You might go drink at the bar. You can't tip everyone always.
That's so true.
So what do? Do you do it at the end? You just go around sort of, there was a nice lady at the spa who gave me a nice massage, give her a little tip, or give the suitcase man a little tip. I don't know.
It starts to rack up, doesn't it?
Starts to rack up.
One person who might be able to help us out here is the etiquette expert, Liz Brewer. Liz, are we becoming more and more American with how this tipping culture is evolving in Britain?
I don't know if we're becoming more and more American, but we British people have always been behind in tipping. We feel that we should have the right to tip when we've received a service. And I know exactly how you feel when you know you're embarrassed and the bill comes, and especially in a taxi, for example, and then you have to add tip. And some of the sort of Uber drivers, you've got to say what you're going to add. It is embarrassing. We feel embarrassed. But the thing about a tip is it should be an incentive for the people working, for the pub, for the restaurant, giving a service. So it gives them the incentive to actually go that one step more, to give you a service, to make it a wonderful evening, afternoon experience. And the problem is today, a lot of people, I don't know about you, but I've sort of felt I'm doing them a favour by going to the establishment rather than vice versa. They are actually trying, or should be, giving me a service, giving me experience, so that I should feel I want to actually reward them.
Yes. So what do you make of this this 4% that's been sneakily added by this pub in Waterloo to whatever you order, even if you order at the bar? Is that going too far?
No, I think that's all to do with prices going up and the fact that pubs are actually dying and they're going to have to do anything they can to survive. So in actual fact, either they're going to have to put their prices up. To add a tip it's not a very clever way of doing it. What they need to do is be absolutely honest and say, if we're going to survive, we've got to put our prices up. And we have got to be able to try and afford them.
But they say the money's going to the staff, I think. They say that extra 4% is going straight to the pockets of the staff.
Yeah, but they should be paying the staff enough. And if they can't afford to pay the staff enough, that is why I'm saying pubs are at the moment in the decline. They're closing every day. And this is part of what makes Britain British. You know, our fabulous pubs. You go to the country pubs. You go to, you know, the middle of the cities, and you've got these wonderful old establishments. It's an experience. It's somewhere you can go, have a conversation, sit up the bar, the barman's going to sort of welcome you. In our country and in the world that we're living in today, we need that. And I don't know how we're going to survive without somehow either lowering the taxes on pubs or putting the prices up. But putting the prices up drives people away. It's a very sad situation.
But as you say, it's a sort of slightly dishonest way that this particular pub is putting up prices, because you think you're going to pay a certain price for a pint, £5, or probably in Waterloo Station, probably closer to £10.
So I think it's £7.35, and I think it's gone up, no, £7.45 for a pint, it's gone up to £7.75.
Right, but they don't advertise it as £7.75, no. They advertise it as £7.45. Well, goodness me, it's all a lot of maths to be doing in your head. Shall we bring in now the owner of the Whitehead's Fish and Chip Shop, Jeff Whitehead, alongside Liz Brewer there. Jeff, thanks for joining us. You're welcome. This is a very peculiar thing for a lot of people. A lot of people can understand paying a service charge if someone comes along to the table, is serving you, is taking away your empties and your plate and bringing you and offering you a serve. Just pulling a pint seems a bit much.
I think we pay enough in this country as it is without having another surcharge put on. Funnily enough, I've just been out for lunch and I asked the question in the restaurant that I've just been in, how does it make you feel about what's happening with surcharges throughout the country being introduced? And basically she said that it was extremely embarrassing having to ask for more when we're already in a cost of living crisis. They're struggling from COVID as it is, just trying to recover from it. And just to add insult to injury, certain restaurant chains are then putting on a surcharge, which the waitresses are finding it extremely embarrassing.
Yes, actually, asking people for more money that they weren't expecting, that is an awkward interaction to have, isn't it, Jeff?
Definitely. I like to go out once a week myself, and every time I go out, it's becoming more and more popular. This is not America. This is Great Britain. We have a minimum living wage here. America don't. America, my friends of mine lived in America. They were on $1 an hour, and they lived off the tips. And the tips alone, they were earning £120, £130 a day just on tips. This is not America. This is the United Kingdom. We have a living wage. If you then wish to tip, so be it. But let that be our discretion, not the companies.
Well, that's a very good point. Should we throw that back to Liz? Because, I mean, very obviously, in the United States, it makes a lot of sense to tip when people have a much, much lower legal minimum for their wage, mostly living off tips. Absolutely the case. But, I mean, in the last budget, the living wage was raised yet again. It's another big cost for employers, to the extent that the minimum wage has risen by a huge amount over the course of the last 15 years.
Yeah, but one of the things you're missing is we had COVID, and you know, the fact that we've actually even survived after COVID is a miracle, because so many businesses went bankrupt. And although you see in the high street there are new shops opening, when it comes to the restaurant business, the pub business, the entertainment business, you know, the theatre, they are struggling. And in actual fact, when it comes to tipping, us Brits have always been poor tippers. We're known for it. America have always been brilliant tippers, and they expect to tip, and they wouldn't dream of not tipping. Here, it's a whole different culture. And what we need is, if we're given a service, we need the right to be able to say, that person has gone one step beyond, and you want to reward them. And therefore, it's up to you to give them a tip. And that also helps in the incentive of then giving you a great service.
Yeah, it's about going the extra mile within the service. The food should count for itself. It's about doing the extra mile with the service.
Absolutely.
No question about that.
We're going to have to leave it there, but I really appreciate both of your time there. Really great to speak to you both on this. It's a tricky one. I think you can't really force a culture change, can you?
No.
People are either stingy or they're not, or they think it's worthwhile to tip or they don't.
Well, we should say that GB News has reached out to Glendola Leisure, who owns the Well and Boot pub, but we're still awaiting a response, and of course bring that to you when we get it.
Well, indeed. But if you're in search of some holiday sun where there is a tipping culture, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading further afield for a holiday, well, you can expect some thunderstorms across the south of France, the Alps, northern Italy. Breezy for Portugal, extending into Madeira and the Canaries, that breeze. Across much of Iberia, it's fine, but towards the north into Andorra, the south of France, and more especially northern Italy and the Alps, some very heavy and lively thunderstorms are expected. Plenty of sunshine, meanwhile, for Greece. Temperatures back closer to average following the heatwave last week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
I thought you'd set up a new version of Pimlico Plumbers in London.
Yeah, my family have set up a company called We Fix London, but we started planning that, 2 years before Labour got in. If we'd known Labour was getting in, we wouldn't have planned it. So obviously we've got to comply with the tax regulations, but anybody with any sense would agree with what I'm saying. The taxes are too high in the UK for wealthy people. Wealthy people can go and work anywhere in the world and be financially a lot better off.
And we had a non-dom regime that was basically stable for 200 years. It's only recently that it's been changed. And we're changing it and making it harder, just as other countries are making it easier. So you can go to Italy and you can negotiate an amount that you will pay. Portugal's been welcoming people. Malta's been welcoming people. All over the world, countries are saying, please come and bring your money. And the UK is saying, we're going to take all your money. We don't want you anymore.
That's right. Look, I mean, they're all encouraging sort of UK business people to come there, and it's working. If you become a tax exile in Italy, you pay 200 grand for the year. You don't have to pay no more. But the real problem is we're wasting their money, and they should be encouraging entrepreneurs to be staying. I think our biggest export at the moment is wealthy people.
So you're a businessman. You know how to do things and make a profit. If you're advising the Chancellor on how to get the money the country needs to pay for the public services, what would you be saying? Because at the moment, the tax revenues don't meet our expenditure. There is a gap. Something needs to give.
Resign.
All right, but that's not the answer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 2. Or if you're in Spain, would that be 10 to 1? Well, it's the summer holidays, which means that Brits are going abroad to enjoy some more summer sunshine.
You're going backwards to Spain, you're going forwards.
You're quite right.
That's
You're quite
okay.
right. 10 to 3.
Oh, well. Anyway, you could be watching us from Spain. And given you loved it so much last year, we decided to send GB News' Doogie Beattie back to Benidorm to speak to British holidaymakers. Doogie, thank you very much. Apparently you've been talking to people about the news. Why would you worry them about such things?
Well, it's because we're a news channel, Emily, of course, but we're here to find out what the Brits are doing here and what they think of the news back home. Do they actually care? And one of the biggest stories today, of course, has been about the flags. The flags not flying in Britain being taken down by certain councils. Look at this behind me. This is the Red Lion Bar in the middle of Benidorm, and this street is actually laced with Union Jacks, George's Cross, Scottish Saltires, the Irish tricolour, and the Union Jack. So they're quite happy to sort of fly it here. And joining me now is a man from Burnley, I do believe. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
And when did you arrive?
Sunday.
And how long will you be here for?
10 days.
Well,
10
tell us,
days in Benidorm.
the flag story today, how does it make you feel?
I mean, we come to other people's country and we respect their flag and their views. And then you have people coming to our country and they're throwing paddies about having our flag up. Why can't they come to our country and just respect our views and stuff like that?
But by doing that with the flag, by actually weaponising the flag, I know this from my own history, you start a sectarian culture. Are you afraid that that's going to happen in Britain?
I hope not. I really hope it doesn't. But if it carries on the way it's going, possibly. Possibly.
Well, that is something to think about.
Yeah.
On your holidays, do you think about the news much?
Probably not. I probably think about when the next drink is, what time we will be drinking, and how the hangover will be the day after. That's probably the most things I'll think about.
Brilliant, sir. Thank you very much.
very
And please enjoy your holiday.
Oh, definitely.
Well, there you go, Tom and Emily. That is some of the thoughts.
Doogie, I've got to say, someone was dancing behind you. Someone was doing some sort of Egyptian-style dance. I don't know if you can see. You're clearly becoming an attraction there in Benidorm yourself.
That is nothing compared to what goes on here after 7 o'clock. Dancing like an Egyptian, nothing. Absolutely nothing, Tom. We'll show you what happens later on.
Oh, cracking. Look forward to it, Doogie. Thanks for being there for us. One of the toughest gigs in journalism today, clearly.
That Chapmy, he's just thinking about his next pint, isn't he?
Oh, aren't we? Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Coming up next, that asylum seeker judgment will bring it to you live.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty grey day for most places today. Not a lot of rain around. Do have a few showers across parts of Devon and Cornwall in particular, thanks to an area of low pressure. But high pressure dominating to the north. There is a weak weather front dribbling in here. That's going to introduce some cooler conditions and maybe a little bit of drizzly rain across the northeast of Scotland. It's at the opposite end of the country, though, where we do have a few heavy showers. Parts of Devon and Cornwall might catch a downpour this afternoon. Still fairly hit and miss. Still most places going to be dry. A lot of cloud, as I said, but there's some sunshine over southeast England, West Wales and western Scotland, where we see some sun. Temperatures in the mid-20s perhaps. Where it stays cloudy, particularly on these North Sea coasts, feeling quite chilly actually for the time of year. Temperatures only 16 or 17 degrees. But as I say, some sunny skies across the extreme southeast. In the far southwest, still one or two heavy showers, maybe even the old rumble of thunder for Devon and Cornwall. West Wales, western parts of Northern Ireland doing okay for sunshine, and the west coast of Scotland too. But for many eastern areas, staying pretty glum. And this thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, always capable of producing a little bit of drizzly rain at times, but nothing too heavy. As we go through the night, we should start to see any showers in the southwest fading away, and also some clearer skies coming into the northeast of Scotland, and that will allow temperatures to fall away, getting down into single figures through rural parts of Scotland for sure. So quite a fresh start here tomorrow. Still a lot of cloud elsewhere, so temperatures mostly holding up at 12 to 14 degrees. So starts quite cloudy tomorrow across a good chunk of England and Wales, but overall I'm hopeful for much more sunshine tomorrow. I think the cloud will break up, particularly by mid to late morning, to reveal some good spells of sunshine, and many places will have a fine afternoon with quite a lot of summer sunshine. Not quite as warm as today, but still temperatures high teens, low 20s.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Chu, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th of August. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
More money in the pockets of working people. Higher living standards promised by this Labour government, delivered by this Labour government.
Well, that's what the Chancellor promised last year, but now the government is eyeing up a radical shake-up of housing taxes. The Chancellor is considering ripping up stamp duty, replacing it with a property tax that could leave some homeowners paying more.
And while difficult, peace is within reach, and I believe that in a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine.
President Zelensky hails his best talks yet with President Donald Trump at the White House. The US president promises security guarantees for Ukraine and says a deal with Russia could be struck even while war rages on. Is there an end finally in sight?
Well, in the next hour, we'll find out if an Essex council has won its bid to block asylum seekers from being housed at the Bell Hotel, after protests and claims the site is breaching planning rules.
And there's weight loss jabs for pets now. Your cat or dog could get one. Ozempic for a dog. Well, there you go. New treatments could soon help obese cats and dogs slim down.
Just feed it less. And hola! Yes, GB News hits Benidorm. We're asking holidaymakers soaking up the 35-degree sunshine what they really think of headlines back here in Blighty.
Yes, 35-degree heat here in Benidorm. We're here to check out, are the Brits still coming here? Are they listening to the news? And is it relevant with the weather at home? We'll have more later in the programme.
And there's a Guinness-guzzling pony with fans from around the world. Now cutting back on the pints, though. Yes, Patrick the pony, he's had to go teetotal with tourists. And though he still sneaks the odd sip as a special treat, I've heard. Bit of a patriotic resistance going on, isn't there, Tom?
Across the country, it does seem like that. There have, of course, been councils up and down the land where people have been tying Union flags and England flags to the lampposts. But also now in Birmingham, people have been doing a bit more of a permanent protest. There have been 6 white-painted roundabouts where a red cross has been painted across those white roundabouts to create a St George's flag.
There's an example there. Quick job.
Absolutely, although apparently the council isn't best pleased.
No, so the council's not best pleased. I think they've actually started washing them off. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they've rushed in there. Someone has put a meme up, haven't they, of a pothole saying, just put a St George's flag in it if you want the council to turn up and wash it off.
But the irony here is that it's Birmingham Council, which is, of course, bankrupt and having to cut back on services. Bins aren't being collected. There's a big strike. There was another suggestion online that perhaps everyone should start using white and red bin bags. If you just make sure that your bin bag is white and perhaps you paint a St George's cross across it, the council will come and take it away as soon as humanly possible.
I just think it's so terrible that the council thought it was the right thing to do to rip down our national flag from lampposts, and now so desperate to go in there and wash off the St George's flag from a roundabout when you have, in many a council, don't you? You have the pride flag on the zebra crossing, or you have the flag here and the flag there, and Ukrainian flag, you have the Palestinian flag, whatever flag. But the St George's flag, oh no, that's a step too far, guys. Got to get in there.
No, it does seem strange when there is this sort of outpouring of national pride. Surely council should embrace this sort of thing.
Embrace it. But some of the residents have said it's vandalism, and as you noted, the BBC's report says they were damaged. Says the roundabout was damaged.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think... I mean, who on earth is damaged by a white roundabout in England having the England flag on it? I mean, why is that a damaging thing? It doesn't affect the way you can see it, it doesn't affect drivers. All it does is make people driving around that particular roundabout just a little bit happier.
Well, there you go. Are you offended by this roundabout? Let us know. gbnews.com/your say. But let's get to the headlines.
Good afternoon. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer has co-chaired Ukraine security guarantee meetings with European leaders today. The Prime Minister and French President Emmanuel Macron have been leading the talks between nations looking to assist Ukraine. This as Donald Trump says he's called Vladimir Putin to arrange a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents following a phone call between he and his Russian counterpart. Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have reportedly agreed to a one-on-one sit-down meeting within the next 2 weeks.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of format, but on the level of leaders.
The US president has suggested this afternoon the US could be willing to help Ukraine by air, but not putting troops on the ground. Last night, Sir Keir Starmer praised Donald Trump for the peace talks at the Oval Office, saying there's been real progress made.
Today's meeting was good and constructive, and there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. These were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today.
The US president has said in the last few moments that it will be a rough situation if President Putin does not agree to a peace plan. Meanwhile, Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey told GB News the UK needs to increase its support to Ukraine.
Still fear that Trump is driven by a desire to get a deal with President Putin and is putting that above the long-term interests of Ukraine and of European security. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a deal that Ukraine would willingly sign up to. I think the best response that Britain could make would be to strengthen the hand of Zelensky at negotiations by offering to increase our support for Ukraine, for example, with British Typhoon jet fighters. I think we have to make sure that Ukraine goes into those negotiations in the strongest possible way.
Elsewhere, a woman dubbed the Ketamine Queen has agreed to plead guilty of selling the drugs that ultimately killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. 42-year-old Jasphine Sanger will plead guilty to 5 charges in Los Angeles, including 1 count of distributing ketamine resulting in death or bodily injury. Perry was found dead in a backyard jacuzzi at his home in Los Angeles in 2023, with an examination finding his death was caused by the acute effects of ketamine. Sanger is one of 5 people, including medical doctors and the actor's assistant, who US officials say supplied ketamine to Perry, exploiting his drug addiction for profit and leading to his overdose death. Rachel Reeves is considering a new property tax that would apply to homes valued above £500,000, potentially replacing stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. The Chancellor is searching for various revenue-raising options while maintaining Labour's pledge to maintain the triple lock. Supermarket inflation fell slightly this month, but remains well past the point at which price rises really start to bite, according to the latest figures. Grocery prices were 5% higher than a year ago in the 4 weeks to the 10th of August, according to market research by the World Panel Numerator, which was recently renamed from Kantar. However, this was down from July's 5.2%, which represented a rise from inflation of 4.7% a month earlier and marked the highest level since January last year. And drivers are being warned over long delays on major routes as 17.6 million getaway trips by car are expected to take place in the UK over the August bank holiday period. The RAC, which issued the alert, urged drivers to set off as early as possible or be prepared to spend longer in traffic. The South East and South West are expected to have some of the worst congestion. Some 3 million journeys for holidays or day trips expected to be made on Friday. This rises to 3.4 million Saturday, 2.4 million Sunday and 2.7 million on Monday. Those are the latest headlines. More from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3524 and €1.1573. The price of gold, £2,469.15 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,184 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 2. Now, Epping Forest District Council is expected to find out if it's been successful in a High Court bid to temporarily block asylum seekers from being housed in the Bell Hotel in Epping. Decision expected very soon indeed.
Yes, we'll be going straight to Mark White outside the High Court when we hear. But for now, we're joined by a local resident who's been to every single Epping protest outside that migrant hotel, Lindsay Thompson. Lindsay, thank you very much. So, it's a big day today.
Yes, I think our expectations are muted. I don't think we're expecting the outcome we would love to have, but there's always optimism.
So what would it mean for you today if the court does find in favour of the council here? Because of course there's been huge expression of democratic non-consent for this hotel. I mean, the council has voted, the people have marched, and now it's time for the judges to adjudicate.
I think the reality for us living in Epping is that I don't think we are, natural protesters. We're hardworking people. We're just mums and dads. So for us to actually, leave work early, stand on the street corner and chant "Save Our Kids," this has been, a massive shift for us. What does this mean for us? It would mean that we have finally got a voice and that the democratic process has worked. I read through the transcript, and to be honest, I don't think that we gave it the best shot. For example, there was very little evidence from the schools. When we know as parents from the schools, we had 2 letters warning us that our children need to be vigilant because they're being approached in the high street.
Sorry,
so
Lindsay,
I don't think we've given
just to dive down on that point, Lindsay, the schools sent 2 letters to the parents of children saying, look out for strange men approaching these children.
Yes, so when we had a warning, and that was a really interesting conversation to have with my 17-year-old, because I said, we've got a letter from school, it's a duty of care call, look out for men that might be approaching you after school. And she was like, well, what men? And it's very clear, we knew what men. It's the 100-odd strangers that have just appeared in our town.
Wait, Lindsay, did this letter not specify look out for people who have just sort of moved into the area? This letter was sent after the Asylum Hotel reopened, clearly referring to asylum seekers, but not spelling it out in terms that that's what it was talking about.
Exactly that. And I had a really interesting conversation with her because she said, a man stopped and chatted me into the high street today. And I was like, but what do he look like? And I said, that's our old gardener. It's not any man in Epping. Then I had a conversation with her around, do you see foreign strangers coming home from school? And she said, well, yeah, every day. They sit in the alleyway and watch us come home from school.
What would you say to those who, hearing that, will say, well, the school and people like you who turn up to these protests are, painting all of these migrants with the same brush?
I think the honesty is we are genuinely good people and we genuinely want a lovely town, and we would welcome anybody in who was vetted and safe and was willing to join our community. The fact is we don't know anything about these people that are arriving. And as a parent, our initial and primary concern is keeping your family, your town, your children safe. I think to make them feel safe at a cost of our safety is, to me, it just feels like political madness.
And I suppose there's something specific about a hotel full of asylum seekers as well, even aside from the fact that people may be coming from cultures that have a very different attitude towards young girls than we do here in the United Kingdom. But more crucially, these are people who are put in a hotel in the middle of town who have literally nothing to do all day. They are meant to just sit there, twiddle their thumbs, and inevitably that leads to milling around in the centre of town, loitering in places where you really don't want people to be loitering.
You know, this is a small town, okay? We're not like a big city. We're a small town. So we've got like a Facebook group, and someone will say, oh, there's teenagers over on the cricket pitch drinking. Mums, who are they? You know, so we know what goes on. When you suddenly have 100 men, no women, no children, 100 young men arriving with nothing to do all day, with access to phones and whatever sites you want to watch on a phone. You know, the school is 500 yards away. There's an entrance, a pathway from the back of the hotel that leads to the school, and the tennis club where the girls are dropped off in their little tennis skirts. It's like a cabaret for people that have got nothing to do all day. So for us, this is not being called racist has been horrible. You know, this is not about race. This is primary concern of keeping our children safe.
Yeah, I think a lot of women would feel that exactly the same way. But just very quickly, if this High Court bid fails today, doesn't go the way that you'd like, will there be another protest scheduled very soon? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think we've now got confidence. I think now we've lost the fear of being called names and being branded as a right thug, because obviously we're not. My dad's 82. I don't think there's anything thuggery about him. You know, there's 3 generations there this Sunday that were there. We will just carry on. And I think now people who don't protest are protesting. I think that's a significant shift in how things are going.
OK.
That's the change, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Lindsay Thompson, thanks indeed for joining us. Really interesting conversation there. Resident there in Epping who's been to all those protests.
Well, should we get to Mark White, who's outside the High Court? Mark, our Home Security Editor, have you heard anything then?
Yeah, there's been potentially significant development where the Home Office have now asked to be included in the arguments over the Home Secretary's powers here, particularly, of course, about the Bell Hotel in Epping. It seems that when the Epping Forest District Council brought this case to the Royal Courts of Justice last week, the Home Office was not represented. Now, I can't understand why, because they would have known, surely, as we all knew, because it was widely publicised at that point that this was taking place, and perhaps they should have sought to be represented at that point. But now today, on the day that the judge is handing down his judgment, there has been this 11th hour intervention by KC acting on behalf of the Home Office, asking to be represented and arguments to be heard. This is what that KC Edward Brown, acting on behalf of the Home Office, said. He said if the injunction is granted by the court, it will substantially impact on the Home Secretary's statutory duties. He continued, the local authority should in fact have given some consideration to the wider public interest in this application. He then went on to say that the injunction bid causes particular acute difficulties at this present date. And of course, the Home Office is very concerned because of what the potential ramifications are if this injunction is granted in favour of Epping Forest District Council, who want an injunction to stop that hotel being used for asylum seekers. Does that then open the floodgates for the more than 200 hotels right across the country that are still being used to house asylum seekers, for local authorities and others in those areas to mount similar injunctions here at the High Court or whichever particular court they decide to go through? That is the definite possibility that the Home Office is concerned about. What I can't quite wrap my head around is why the Home Office were not represented on the, at the initial hearing why they didn't ask to be represented at that point. They obviously, like everyone else, would have known that this injunction was being sought. This seems a very late stage in the process. I mean, no kidding. The judge is handing down his judgment. He's already decided. To come and then ask the judge to be represented seems, well, extraordinary to me. And I don't know what this is going to do now. The judge...
A cynic here might suggest that this is a delaying tactic from the government.
Well, I don't know. I'm not in the government's head, so you can be as cynical as you like. I really don't know enough about what's going on here, whether there was, in the way that this injunction was applied for by the council, an onus on perhaps the council to take into account the wider ramifications and ask for the Home Office to be represented, or whether the onus was on the Home Office, knowing that there would be considerable ramifications for the way in which the Home Secretary conducts her business, for them then to apply to be represented. If it is the latter, then it does seem extraordinary. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in the court, what the judge decides, and how that impacts on his ruling today, if indeed that now takes place today.
Very interesting development. Mark, please do pop back up if you hear more about what this means in terms of the scheduling and when we'll get this ruling. Mark White, thank you very much, our Home and Security editor there. So, yes, the Home Office coming in at the 11th hour with their KC. They've now got additions to make. They want to be included.
Oh, very nice. Well, we should move on now because Sir Keir Starmer has broken his silence on councils ripping down union flags. Well, his spokesperson says the Prime Minister absolutely supports people raising both English and British flags.
This comes after a second council vowed to remove English or British flags that have been attached to lampposts by patriotic campaigners. On top of this, in Birmingham, at least 6 mini roundabouts have been graffitied with red crosses to look like St George's flags, and not everyone's happy about that either.
Well, we're joined now by the writer for the Daily Mail and campaigns director of Restore Britain, Charlie Downs. Charlie, this seems to be a growing sort of movement across the country. Where do you see it going?
I think it is taking on a life of its own. I mean, you can probably tell what my position on the matter is given what is behind me there. But I think it's really interesting what this phenomenon actually represents, because when you fly a flag, you're making a statement. And I think that's been most keenly felt and clearly sort of seen over the last few years in the forms of the Israel flag, the Palestine flag, and the Ukraine flag. And in each of those cases, when people fly those flags, whether that's at a march or off of their own house, or when they wear a lapel badge with those flags, what each of those three cases, what the flag represents is the support of a people to self-determination in their own land. And that's the case. I think it's more keenly felt in those cases because there's literally a war taking place. But when people fly the English flag and the Union flag in Britain now, it's viewed as an expression of resistance, and it's viewed as an expression of a desire for our own land to be governed in our own interest. Because I think many people, especially in the working class communities that these flags are being flown in primarily, feel that Britain has not been governed in the interest of the British people, the indigenous people to whom this land belongs, for a very long time. And I think that people are feeling the destruction that this project of multiculturalism, mass immigration, has wrought onto this country. And at last, people are standing up and essentially taking the fight to the streets.
Well, there's certainly a lot of angst out there, that's for sure. Charlie, we're going to have to leave it there because we're running out of time, but appreciate your time. Charlie Downs there, writer for the Daily Mail and campaigns director at Restore Britain.
Yeah, I wonder if it's all about ethnicity, though, because I think a lot of people who will have migrated to this country from Commonwealth countries who were born perhaps under the Empire will also see it as their flag.
Oh, a lot of people love waving the flag, whatever colour, background, whatever. There's just a small, very vocal minority who seem to think it's all racist.
Yeah.
And I wonder why they're saying that.
Well, we should say that Birmingham City Council has issued this statement. People who attach unauthorised items to lampposts could be putting their own lives and those of motorists and pedestrians at risk. We're continuing to do this every week and would ask that staff doing this work are allowed to continue this work unhindered, that is, taking down the flags.
Oh dear. Well, a spokesperson for Tower Hamlets Council says while we recognise people wish to express their views, we have the responsibility to monitor and maintain council infrastructure. Where flags are attached to council-owned infrastructure without permission, they may be removed as part of routine maintenance.
Very routine indeed. Well, time for the Great British giveaway now. Your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year, plus £5,000 in tax-free cash. Or if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, £15,000. Here are the details.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, because why not? And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you. We'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. What are you waiting for? Lines will close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 2, and GB News has seen a bombshell new poll from YouGov. Yes, the government's net approval rating has crashed to minus 56. Now, this is particularly interesting because it matches the final rating of the Conservative government before their disastrous 2024 election.
Yeah, we saw what happened there. So apparently the percentage of people who approve of this government is now 13%. The proportion who disapprove, 69%. So that's what makes that minus 56 net approval rating.
And this
pretty shocking.
Just really, it's hard to express how low this is for such an early point. I mean, this government is 1 year in to its time in office. Now, a lot of governments get unpopular mid-term. That's, of course, not unusual. But to be this low, this quickly, I mean, that's almost unprecedented.
And have you seen, and we haven't mentioned it today yet, I don't think, but the cost of borrowing under this government, those gilt yields, aren't they called? The gilt rate, sorry. It's at the same place. It's higher now than when it was under Liz Truss. Now, of course, Labour talk a lot about how Liz Truss crashed the economy, but actually the cost of government borrowing is massively up.
Yes, although I think they would argue that it's also up in other countries as well, and it's about the rate of change compared to other countries in terms of...
Well, I don't know. Economists don't seem to be too impressed with the state of that.
No, I mean, it's certainly not good.
So the 10-year gilt rate rose to 4.74% yesterday. The worst it got under Liz Truss was 4.5%.
Yeah.
The 30-year rate is now 5.62%, the highest in any major economy.
Yeah.
So we're doing worse relative to other economies too.
Yeah, they have also gone up in the Eurozone, in America as well. But I think that it does speak to some of the challenges that this government is facing, which probably speaks to this net minus 56 approval rating. Let's not forget Rishi Sunak, when he called that election, the Tory party lost 2/3 of its seats. I mean, the Tory party went down to the lowest number of seats it has ever held in the House of Commons in the 2024 election. I mean, an utter decimation of that. Well, decimation is a reduction by 10%, way more than a decimation. But if this is to be replicated by the Labour Party, I mean, it just speaks to how turbulent politics now is in this country. Just challenges on every front. Migration, a disaster. The levels of taxes, a disaster. The cost of living, a disaster. I mean, all of the things that the government sort of fought the election saying that they would make better, whether that's the cost of housing, whether that's the level of migration, smashing the gangs, getting that high rate of tax, the highest taxes that we've had on record. All of those were sort of promised to be fixed by this government. And on all of those, it seems that we're going backwards rather than forwards.
Well, I don't think you can talk about how Liz Truss crashed the economy either, if certain indicators are worse now than they were at her worst.
Well, that was always a very difficult argument for opposition politicians to make, because by what measure are they saying the economy has been crashed? There was economic growth throughout the 2 months that Liz Truss was in office. I think they were trying to claim that an economic crash was high rate of inflation or high interest rates, but obviously that's not an economist's definition of a crash, because a crash refers to growth.
Deeply unpopular, anyway, Liz Truss, obviously. But it looks like Keir Starmer's giving her a run for his money. Her money, anyway. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Coming up, weight loss jabs for pets. Yes, your dog or cat could get a weight loss jab to help them slim down. Is your cat obese?
Good afternoon. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Donald Trump says he's called Vladimir Putin to arrange a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents following a phone call between he and his Russian counterpart, which President Zelensky has said is a truly significant step towards ending the war. European leaders have been holding a debrief call after the talks with Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump at the White House yesterday. A woman dubbed the Ketamine Queen has agreed to plead guilty of selling the drugs that ultimately killed Friends actor Matthew Perry. Rachel Reeves is considering a new property tax that would apply to homes valued above £500,000, potentially replacing stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. And drivers are being warned over long delays on major routes as 17.6 million getaway trips by car are expected to take place in the UK over the August bank holiday weekend. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour with Sam.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A pretty grey day for most places today. Not a lot of rain around. Do have a few showers across parts of Devon and Cornwall in particular, thanks to an area of low pressure. But high pressure dominating to the north. There is a weak weather front dribbling in here. That's going to introduce some cooler conditions and maybe a little bit of drizzly rain across the northeast of Scotland. It's at the opposite end of the country, though, where we do have a few heavy showers. Parts of Devon and Cornwall might catch a downpour this afternoon. Still fairly hit and miss. Still most places going to be dry. A lot of cloud, as I said, but there's some sunshine over southeast England, West Wales and western Scotland, where we see some sun. Temperatures in the mid-20s perhaps. Where it stays cloudy, particularly on these North Sea coasts, feeling quite chilly actually for the time of year. Temperatures only 16 or 17 degrees. But as I say, some sunny skies across the extreme southeast. In the far southwest, still one or two heavy showers, maybe even the odd rumble of thunder for Devon and Cornwall. West Wales, western parts of Northern Ireland doing okay for sunshine, and the west coast of Scotland too. But for many eastern areas, staying pretty glum. And this thickest cloud close to these North Sea coasts, always capable of producing a little bit of drizzly rain at times, but nothing too heavy. As we go through the night, we should start to see any showers in the southwest fading away, and also some clearer skies coming into the northeast of Scotland, and that will allow temperatures to fall away, getting down into single figures through rural parts of Scotland for sure. So quite a fresh start here tomorrow. Still a lot of cloud elsewhere, so temperatures mostly holding up at 12 to 14 degrees. So starts quite cloudy tomorrow across a good chunk of England and Wales, but overall I'm hopeful for much more sunshine tomorrow. I think the cloud will break up, particularly by mid to late morning, to reveal some good spells of sunshine, and many places will have a fine afternoon with quite a lot of summer sunshine. Not quite as warm as today, but still temperatures high teens, low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the M74 northbound face restrictions after Junction 4 due to a road incident. The A4042 northbound between Pontypool Roundabout and Court Farm Roundabout has roadworks causing closures with diversions. In Cheshire West, the M6 northbound between Junction 17 and 18 has a lane closed, resulting in a 15-minute delay. Surrey's M25 clockwise exit slip at Junction 6 is partially closed due to a broken-down vehicle. And on the trains, there are major disruptions on Greater Anglia and Stansted Express between Cheesehunt and Stansted Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 37 minutes past 2. Now, want to see less of your Labrador? Well, a Zempor or Woofgovy could soon be the answer. Now, for those of you who are uninitiated, that's the canine equivalent of Ozempic or Wegovy, the so-called fat jabs.
Yes, they're very popular fat jabs, and they could be making it to your vet, apparently. Well, a biotech firm has announced plans for a new fat jab for pets, a weight loss jab designed to help those overweight cats and dogs shed their puppy fat and slim down one paw at a time.
Well, joining us now is the animal behaviour expert, Anna Webb. Anna, this seems like a strange sort of avenue to travel down. I mean, surely pet owners can just feed their cat or dog less?
Exactly, Tom. You hit the nail on the head. You know, I think I maintain that dogs and cats are not little people in a furry suit. So to apply the same kind of diet, pills, injections that humans are taking a lot of at the moment, I've heard, I don't think it's quite right, because at the end of the day, It's up to us humans. We have a duty of care to keep our pets in the best health. And that, of course, involves you are what you eat, and so is your dog, and so is your cat. Overfeeding, is something people can, fall into this trap, particularly with dogs, because they have their puppy dog eyes and, they're scavengers by nature. So if you're having your dinner, they're going to be thinking, oh gosh, if they're sniffing around the table, oh, go on, give us a bit of your chicken or whatever it might be. But it is a bit about being tough love about this and understanding that your dog and your cat has what's known as a body score. And both dogs and cats do have a waist. It's subtle, but they curve in a bit before they get to their hips and their back end. So if your dog or cat hasn't got this slight curve when you look down at them, then they could be a little bit porky. So to invest also in healthy food. I'm not a fan of overly processed foods. They often contain synthetic additives, minerals, vitamins. They're not always the most, what I call, with my nutrition hat on, species appropriate, which
but
basically...
Anna, with the jabs, going back to the jabs, because I take all your points, what if these dogs are suffering from food noise? They can't stop thinking about food, because these jabs, this is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to stop you from even thinking about, grazing or snacking or wanting that bit of extra. Dogs may suffer the same.
Well, they might or they might not. You've got to remember that a dog and a cat's brain is very different to a human's. So they don't have the frontal cortex like we do. That is the monkey mind, the chatter, thinking, crumbs, I really fancy a piece of chocolate cake at 4 o'clock. Dogs don't think like that. They live in the moment. So they're very happy with what we humans offer them. And that's where
Anna, are you saying that dogs don't have an internal monologue?
No, they don't have an internal monologue. They don't have what we have.
Disney has lied to us for decades.
Yeah, terrible, isn't it? Anna, we're going to have to leave it there. Really appreciate your time on this one. A rather bizarre one. I do hope there aren't that many obese cats and dogs out there, but there probably are.
Well, I think when it comes to dogs and cats, it's a bit like parents with children. You can control what your child eats. When it's these fat jabs are really useful for adults because obviously you're a free agent. You can go out and buy food. Sometimes you need a bit of self-control, and the jab can help you there. But ultimately, if someone else is responsible for your feeding, that's on them.
Yeah. Also, it's a sign of love, isn't it? People give people food to show they love them, but actually they're harming them.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to get back to the High Court because the Home Office has stepped in at the High Court as judges weigh up whether Epping's Bell Hotel can continue housing asylum seekers.
Well, let's speak to our Home and Security editor, Mark White, with an update there outside the High Court. What have you got for us, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story. Stepping in is absolutely fine and actually to be expected given the ramifications for the Home Office. But it's the fact they decided to step in just as the judge sits on his bench to hand down his ruling. He heard his evidence last week for some reason, and no one can reach the bottom of this. I've been trying to get a hold of the Home Office. The Home Office didn't do anything last week when he was hearing this injunction from Epping Forest District Council to try to get the Bell Hotel shut down in terms of being used as an asylum seeker hotel. They didn't intervene at that point, despite clearly knowing that there would be very significant ramifications for asylum hotels right across the country. Today at the 11th hour, they intervene and have been giving evidence now that the judge is hearing. And it's clear that Epping Forest District Council are apoplectic. We've just been hearing from the KC acting on behalf of the council. That's Philip Coppell. He said, for the council, the Home Office's request was a thoroughly unprincipled application made in a thoroughly unprincipled way, and that the department knew of the injunction bid last week but sat on their hands. We've also been hearing from the hotel's owners, Somani Hotels Limited. They're actually in favour of this intervention by the Home Office. Of course they would, because they're making lots of money out of housing asylum seekers in a way that they were not before the Home Office reached out to them and asked them to do that. Well, they have said that they are in favour of the Home Office request to intervene in the Epping Council temporary injunction. As I say, the evidence now from the Home Office is being heard. But what actually that will mean for this case, we were expecting an Epping District Council, Epping Forest District Council, and of course the people of Epping very concerned about this hotel's continued use to house asylum seekers. We're all expecting to hear today what the outcome would be, whether that was an outcome that would be ruled in their favour or against them. It was supposed to be handed down today. So what does this mean? Will the judge still be able to reach a decision in light of the new evidence, or will he, in fairness to the Home Office, have to go off and properly consider the new evidence that has been put down? As I say, the whole issue now is descended into something of a farce here at the Royal Courts of Justice.
Experience, Mark. I mean, how long does it take for a judge to hear new evidence that's just been put on his desk so suddenly?
Well, it can depend just how complex the argument is and what the various ramifications and issues are that he has to take into account. Obviously, it's a lot easier if you're only hearing from the hotel itself, the Bell Hotel owners, Somani Hotels Limited, and the council who want it shut down. But when you then get the Home Office bringing into the equation a whole wider issue about the ramifications for the Home Secretary here in how she will have to deal going forward with other potential cases like this that might be brought by local authorities elsewhere in the country, or indeed other interested parties, then that obviously brings a whole new realm of sort of complication that the judge is going to have to now consider. And it may be that he cannot reach a ruling today, and he has to go off for a day or two or longer to decide what his ruling was. He already, of course, having heard the evidence on Friday, took the weekend and, of course, yesterday to decide on his decision. So it's perfectly possible that he may take some more time.
OK, Mark, reporting on something of a farce down there at the High Court. No doubt we'll see you down there in the coming days as well. For now, thanks for joining us.
Yes, well, let us know your thoughts. GBNews.com/your say. But in the meantime, if you are popping off on holiday, here's the travel weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading further afield for a holiday, well, you can expect some thunderstorms across the south of France, the Alps, northern Italy. Breezy for Portugal, extending into Madeira and the Canaries, that breeze. Across much of Iberia, it's fine, but towards the north into Andorra, the south of France, more especially northern Italy and the Alps, some very heavy and lively thunderstorms are expected. Plenty of sunshine, meanwhile, for Greece. Temperatures back closer to average following the heatwave last week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines and you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script. You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week. Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 to 3. Now, Patrick the Pony has become a global celebrity for his love of Guinness down the local boozer.
Yes, visitors from all over the world, in Bangladesh, Canada, the United States, they've all travelled to the small village just to see Patrick and have a pint with him.
Well, joining us now from his favourite local spot, the Cattleman's Steakhouse in Pegton, is Patrick, the Guinness-loving pony, accompanied by his owner, Kirk Patriotic. Kirk, thanks so much for joining us. We can't quite see Patrick. Where is Patrick there?
He's down there.
Oh, there he is. Oh, and can I just say what a marvellous get-up he is in today.
Yeah, he's very patriot, and he's also the mayor of Cockington Village. So he's the first animal mayor in the UK.
That's a very impressive CV.
He's the first animal mayor. We're just hearing hearing that people from all over the world have come to visit Patrick the Pony and meet you as well, his lovely owner. But apparently Patrick the Pony is no longer drinking Guinness. Is that true?
Yeah, it's just so many people want to buy him a Guinness. So I've had to say sorry, you know, because a sip of Guinness for a horse or Patrick is a treat. So you can't give it all the time, but it is quite healthy for horses in moderation, of course, like with everything.
Well, that is the absolute message there, isn't it? Not drinking all the time, but in moderation. And actually, in that spirit, Kirk, I've got myself a little pint here, so perhaps I could join in with Patrick there. We can perhaps raise a glass together. Let's have a look at Patrick go first. This is marvellous stuff.
Yeah, he's getting excited for this Guinness.
So when was the last time he had a Guinness, Kirk?
Oh, you're probably talking about a week ago.
So this really is a treat.
This is really a treat.
He's got a taste for it. Oh, look at that. That's perfectly poured.
And we always use a plastic pint glass.
Ah, safe.
Safety first.
Yeah, we always think safety.
Oh, tucking in.
Oh, he's done this before, hasn't he?
Oh,
gosh, he really loves it, doesn't he?
He gets his tongue right in there. It's so sweet. And he gets all the Guinness all over his back. You can see how much he loves it.
Oh, that is excellent stuff.
yeah.
But I suppose the message here is, well, yeah, the
Hang on,
tourists...
isn't he having a bit too much now, Kirk? A bit too much.
He's
Not
loving
at
it.
all.
But yeah, Patrick is famous. He's been in the Washington Post. He's been on German TV as well as UK, Alan Titchmarsh. So he's quite well known, little Patrick, all over the world.
I've got to
just
raise
love
my glass, Kirk, both to you and to Patrick, of course, the first animal mayor in the UK. So cheers to you, cheers to Patrick, cheers to patriotism too, with his marvellous Union Jack coat.
Gosh, well, there you go. Thank you so much, Kirk Petrakis, and of course to Patrick the pony. He was really tucking in. I didn't think he'd have that much.
Well, let's go to another man who enjoys a pint now. It is the one and only Martin Daubney.
Why did you come to me? That was just unmissable TV. Patrick, the pint-sized pony, beautiful. What have I got today? Well, 11th hour farce at the High Court in Epping. I've got the landlord of a boozer who was deflagged, told to take down the flags from outside his pub. I've got him on. And look at this, a political row has kicked off over Reform UK. They've got a new football shirt out. It's all getting very, very shirty because Nigel Farage has always said, of course, let's kick the politics out of football. Now he's flogging football shirts. Is that base hypocrisy? I think actually it's just a good bit of fun, but they're getting well shirty. The left wingers are scything down the right wingers. It's all kicking off on the park. We've got that 3 till 6 on the show, but first is your magnificent weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's quite a grey day for many today. Tomorrow starts off pretty dry, but it should turn sunnier. Again, not a lot of rain in the forecast. Slightly cooler feel tomorrow as well as this cold front sinks south. We've got this weather front across the southwest. That's been providing some heavy showers over Devon and Cornwall. Still a few of those moving through during this evening. The old rumble of thunder isn't completely out of the question, but they do tend to fade away during this evening, disappearing by midnight, maybe affecting the Channel Isles. Bit of drizzle, perhaps at times in some central and eastern parts of England, but most places dry. Quite a lot of cloud, keeping the temperatures up again in the south, but clearer skies are arriving across Scotland, allowing temperatures to dip down well into single figures in the countryside, but also allowing plenty of sunshine here for Wednesday. For much of England and Wales, though, it will be another fairly grey start. Perhaps some breaks in the cloud across the south coast of both England and Wales. Northern Ireland and Scotland should have a brighter day than today. I know we've seen quite a bit of sunshine on the west coast of Scotland, but generally across the mainland of Scotland we'll see the cloud breaking up through the morning to reveal some sunnier skies here during tomorrow. And I'm pretty optimistic across England and Wales too that cloud will tend to break up through the morning. So by lunchtime many places seeing lengthy spells of sunshine. May take a little longer in southernmost counties of England for that cloud to break, and still the possibility of some cloud at times affecting the east coast, but generally it turns sunny through tomorrow. Temperatures about average for the time of year, high teens, low 20s, maybe 23 or 24 in the south, feeling cooler on the east coast, but generally you'll notice that cooler feel more particularly in the evening as temperatures fall away under what will be largely clear skies. The dry weather likely to continue for most of us into the weekend with a mixture of sunshine and cloud. Cooler mornings, but generally temperatures by day into the 20s.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
You've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. This would change my life.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
You're going to have a lovely app. You can do everything online. You'll have, as a senior citizen, you'll have no problems with the NHS ever again. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, it would be if it were true, but as we got used to with this Labour government, if you scratch the surface a little bit, that the assertion that this is a plan for everyone is patently a nonsense, because if, like me, and the literally, no exaggeration, Nigel, hundreds of thousands of people like me who have either vascular dementia or Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, and there are several kinds, the app is simply not fit for purpose. First of all, you have to put in your email address, then you have to put in a password, and if you get it slightly wrong and think, oh, hang on a moment, it's not sausages and apples, it's carrots and cabbages, and you want to quickly change it so you can carry on, it's terribly complicated. And if you've got dementia, or if you're slightly older, but perhaps not with dementia, or just have a mental issue, sometimes you get digital problems, you get a letter wrong or a number in the wrong place, and you cannot get hold of the prescriptions you talk about, you cannot look at your appointments record, it's just inaccessible. And as far as the community hubs, or as you and I used to call them when we were growing up, cottage hospitals almost, that's great. We've got a brilliant GP surgery just down the road that has nurses, has a brilliant pharmacy, and looks after Sally and me extremely well. So I'm really pleased about that, and they're just a terrific team.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you all. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, lawyers for Epping Council who are applying to have the Bell Hotel for asylum seekers closed down. They blasted the Home Office of an unprincipled last-minute intervention in this past hour. The government blocked a ruling on the hotel in scenes our man, Mark White, has called a total farce. We'll be live from the High Court. And Rachel Reeves' new homes tax has been blasted as a poll tax for pensioners after it's emerged that the cruel new tax could force asset-rich but cash-poor OAPs to sell their homes. And the Chancellor's got a £50 billion black hole to fill. But once again, why should pensioners bear the brunt? And a pub landlord was ordered to remove union flags from outside his boozer after complaints from locals and the council. But as the flags had "Stop the Boats" written across them, did the brewery have a point? Has his freedom of speech been flattened, or was this a flag too far? And also coming up on the show, we have this.
We are Reform FC, and I'm proud to be its manager. What a season we're having.
Yes, left-wingers are putting the boot into Nigel Farage after the Reform UK gaffer has started flogging Reform FC football shirts. Critics have accused Mr Farage, who's always said, let's keep the politics out of sport, of hypocrisy. Do they have a point? Or are they getting shirty merely for the sake of it? And the Home Office is said to have blindsided Portsmouth City Council by dumping hundreds of asylum seekers into the area without telling politicians or indeed the public. I'll be joined by a local Reform councillor who claims the entire establishment feels stacked against the British people. And that's all coming up on your next hour. Well, the show's a pleasure to have your company. A total farce at the High Court was how our man, Mark White, described a dramatic 11th hour intervention from the Home Office because we were expecting yay or nay would the asylum hotel at Epping, the Bell, be closed down or would it go ahead? A totemic, a seismic ruling which could affect